Thank you for staying with us. Let's settle now for the news. And police in the Upper West region have started investigations into the murder of a private security man at Paguri, a suburb of Wa. 65-year-old Mumuni Jato, who is a father of 6, was picked up at a security point lying on a bench in the night and allegedly hit with a cement block and secretly buried in a shallow grave at an uncompleted structure. Correspondent Rafiq Salam now reports.
The people of the Wa municipality once again woke up to another sad news. It's about a gruesome murder of one of their own. He's a private security man who was on night duty and was gruesomely murdered and buried in a shallow grave.
Right behind me, you can see a bench right under there. That is where the victim was sleeping. And according to reliable source, he came for duty on Friday night with his basket, and the basket was parked behind him. The following morning, the family could not find him. And so they came and made a report. We made a report and we went on radio to make an announcement. Only to be told on Sunday morning that the body had been seen buried under an uncompleted building.
We are now entering the uncompleted structure to see things for ourselves and where the man was allegedly buried. And I can tell you that this is the exact place where he was buried, in a shallow grave right here.
The body was cut open, and according to the pathologists, the heart was taken away. Nothing else, only the heart was taken away. That is the report of the pathologists. And so that's the police observation at the moment. But like I told you, this one God has blessed and we are able to lift out some finger impression. So we are hoping and praying to God that we shall be able to get to the bottom of the matter.
For the 4th time in as many months, residents of the Wa municipality, particularly Paguri and Kambale, have been living in fear and having sleepless nights, wondering who could be next regarding these suspected ritual murders.
Are you afraid? Oh, we are afraid. Even the last I cannot sleep, the very day I cannot sleep. Even my family, we cannot sleep. They was afraid about it. Even my children, they was crying. That the thing happened, like they were crying, they cannot sleep. They was crying. So we people to find some way you can do, and this problem was resolved.
The Upper West Region's Police Command says they are not resting on their oars in pursuing the criminals and their elements.
It takes time. You might not have confidence, but I can assure you that the police, we have confidence in ourselves. And I'm telling you that we are doing our best. And I've told you, the Inspector General of Police have even dispatched some men to come and assist to unravel the mystery behind this murder case, this serial killing within the municipality.
Out of the 4 suspected gruesome murders that occurred in the municipality, all of them were private security personnel, and 3 of them took place at the Paguri Enclave, an enclave who serves as the entertainment hub of the municipality and turning into a criminal den. Alaji Sakotayre Moment is the Wa mayor and is deeply worried to the marrow about the criminal trend.
Why are they targeting watchmen? Because the last one was a school watchman whose blood was drained completely and he was not open. They did not take any organ from him. It was the blood that was drained. And this person is also a security personnel, a watchman, who was also killed and certain organs removed from him. So in fact, it's a cause of concern. And if you look at the environment and where those people work, you see that even owners of those properties have not personally taken security matter seriously. Because look at this particular incident. This big story building where the man is watching, there is no any security light under. So if you are lying under the darkness, your predators will take advantage of the environment and then come after you. But one thing that makes me happy is the fact that the Municipal Security Council and the Regional Security Council have come together to look into this matter seriously.
The victim, Mumuni Jato, is somebody who's known in this community. He has 6 children and a wife.
He was very close to the chief and he offered so many supports to the community. And now that he has gone, it will be a very big blow to all of us.
Friends, close relations, politicians from all sides of the political divide are visiting the family of the 65-year-old elder of Kambale to condole and commiserate with them. Among them, is the Member of Parliament for the Wa Central Constituency, Dr. Rashid Pelpu, who condemned the Dastardly Act and wants the perpetrators to be fished out.
We are sad about it, we are worried about it, we are calling on the police to really demonstrate leadership and demonstrate professionalism so we can grasp these people and deal with them.
Residents of this community are surely in grief over the gruesome murder of a man they say is their pillar and will remain same until the perpetrators of the heinous crime are arrested.
Reporting for Gh News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Let's head now to the Gh Municipal Assembly, which is under fire for allowing encroachers to take over the greenbelt protecting the Weija Lake. The water source serves more than 1 million people in the Greater Accra region and parts of the central region. But the increasing human activity within its buffer zone are threatening its survival. After several assurances by the Municipal Assembly, it is emerging that even more buildings are springing up on that green belt. Manuel Kranting now reports.
Ask that tomorrow, the team will invite Ghana Water with this team, with my team, we'll go on the field, and then of course we'll take it from there. Structures that has to be pulled down, will sure be pulled down. I've started with some demolition in some areas.
That is Municipal Chief Executive for Gh pledging strong action by the Assembly to deal with encroachment within the buffer zone of the Weija Dam. 4 weeks on, there are even more illegal buildings.
Gh Municipal Assembly, we need some effort from them. I think they should be proactive. The assembly member of the area has to be on the ground and to check some of these illegalities going on over here.
It has taken a joint police and military task force led by the Forestry Commission to stop the developments. George Agbenowoshi is Deputy Manager for Greater Accra Forestry Commission.
Look, have you seen any mark on the buildings over here? No, there are no marks here. And so I'm saying that they are not doing much to prevent some of these buildings that are springing up here. So I want to urge the assembly member to step up efforts. And also the municipal assembly must also show some much concern about things that are happening here. Water Resources Commission must also try as much as possible to step up the efforts, because we have planted a number of trees here. We have mahogany species, or fram species, militia species. We have all kinds of tree species here we have planted, and with government money, Green Ghana was established here. And so if we pump or invest in this tree planting and the next day they are pulled down, I don't think it is good.
Just as the demolishing exercise went on, some men emerged to claim ownership of the land. Nishi Pijoma is a leader of the group. At some point, parts of the compulsorily acquired lands were released to the families. Now, the Ghana Water Company Limited and the Forestry Commission are beginning to eat into our portion. Government was unable to pay it. Kwame Nabatels and John Kufuor were the ones that released the lands to us. We expect to have a meeting with the Forestry Commission, the Lands Commission, and the Water Resources Commission. In the end, there's a stern warning issued to encroachers who are taking over this buffer of the Weija Lake. Also, a call has been issued for the arrest of persons who are indeed undertaking this development here. It waits to be seen how all of these turn out. From here at Joma, my name is Manuel Kranting, reporting for Joy News.
Let's talk education now. And some schools across the country are beginning to receive copies of textbooks for the new curriculum for pre-tertiary schools 3 years since it was introduced. Printers, including Appointed Time Printing Limited, have assured Parliament's Committee on Education they will meet an August deadline to print all the books and distribute them. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante was with the committee when they visited the printer to have an understanding of the work done so far.
For more than 3 years since government introduced a new curriculum for pre-tertiary schools, textbooks are now set to be available in all these schools, with some now getting their first copies. Within this period, schools have had to improvise and teach students without textbooks. Some local printers contracted by government to print these textbooks say they are well within time to meet their schedule. Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apak, says although this development is coming late, they are satisfied with the work that has been done so far. He spoke to Joy News when members of the Education Committee toured Appointed Time Printing Limited, one of the printing houses working on the textbooks.
Well, there is a saying that better late than never. I would have wished that these processes would have been completed maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but be as it may, that didn't happen. But from what we've seen so far, I think that it is impressive. And I am particularly happy because we are using local printing houses. Received is that some of them have already been moved to the various destinations, and we expect that they will be in the classrooms as soon as possible. So all in all, better late than never. Well, as an academic myself, I think that the quality is good.
Chairman of the committee, Kwabena Mankwai-Siama, urged government to meet its obligations to the printers to ensure that they are able to deliver on time.
It takes some time. Government will have to find money and government will have to print. Finding money is not an easy job, especially in a period like this. We talk about the COVID intervention and what Ukraine is doing as it stands now. Economy is not in the best of shapes, so you can pardon government for that. And this is not the first time that publishing has delayed. Every year or every changeover, it delays.
Meanwhile, Managing Director of Appointed Time Printing Limited, Jacqueline Affo, has assured the committee they will finish printing the books even before the given deadline.
I expected completion time. We are looking at 21st August to complete the books and deliver as well. So that's what we are looking at. 21st August is our deadline. So that's what we are hoping to do. Yeah.
When you spoke to the committee early on, you said that some of the books had already been dispatched.
Yes. About 600,000 have gone to the schools.
For 3 years now, primary schools in particular have not had textbooks based on the new curricula that was introduced by government. These books are now getting to the schools, and the appointed time have been telling us that about 600,000 copies of science textbooks in particular have been dispatched to the schools. They are expecting to do the additional 200,000 books that they are supposed to print by the end of August and dispatch them. Now that these books are going, the minority and the majority on the committee are both expressing satisfaction with the kind of work that has been done by this particular printer, and they're expecting that these deadlines will be met and government will also meet its obligations to these printers.
This news will come as a relief for activists and parents who expressed concerns about the delay in printing these books. For Joy News, Kweku Asante, Accra.
A mindset development firm is set to partner government to launch a program to address unemployment. The group, through its Ghana Essential Skills Initiative program, will provide soft skills training for young men and women. Volta Regional Correspondent has the rest of the story.
A study conducted by the World Bank and International Labour Organization revealed that Ghanaian youth, even those with higher qualifications, lack skills required by employers. Due to this, I Am Worth It project, a mindset development firm, seeks to change the narrative by providing the youth with these essential skills to help them adapt and satisfy the job demands in the 21st century. Personnel of several institutions have already been trained, including the leadership of the National Service Personnel Association. The Chief Executive Officer of the I Am Worth It project, Tammy Shega, said the team aims at helping Ghana reduce youth unemployment.
And these essential skills are the skills that account for up to 85% of your success. And we came to Ghana on a mission, and it was to help become part of the solution to youth unemployment. And we've done that by going out, meeting the Ghanaian youth, training them, seeing the obstacles that they face, and developing a solution that can be easily embedded into existing work skills and entrepreneurial program.
She implored the Ghanaian youth to work on their mindset and endeavor to be different.
So when you go out into the work world, the number one thing you can do is to be different than anyone else. We think we have to fit in, but we actually have to stand out. And you stand out by doing the things other people don't do. Be on time, deliver, right? Be confident because you're building that. So don't be the same as everybody else. I have a curriculum library of 12 what I call soft skills, but they're actually human skills. What's really holding you back, how to train your brain, influence, which is the most important business skill, teamwork, solution thinking, leadership, how to create a client experience, how to sell. So all the things that you need to take your skill set and be successful that are not being taught in traditional education.
The executive director of the National Service Scheme, Osei Asibe Entry, said the initiative conforms with the scheme's new mission statement.
We were just picking and taking the class lead from the university, then deploying them to the various user agencies. But now that we have changed the mission statement, it has given us a duty, it has given us a task, and the task is that we need to support the central government to be able to solve the unemployment situation. So today, I'm so happy that you've bought into it. You've bought into our vision, and you have brought one of the most powerful conference presenter to take you through what I came and saw. This woman is a very strong Canadian woman who has distinguished herself across the globe.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, who.
Now, in the Ashanti region, police at Abuakwa are looking into the strange circumstances that led a man to keep his wife's dead body in their flat for several months. The man's body was also discovered by police in the family's bathroom, sitting on the toilet. 2 teenage children of the couple were also rescued in a near unconscious state. We'll bring you details of that story later. But it's a wrap for the news. Up next, the news review. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. We're joined by the Director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, also a political scientist, and of course, my former lecturer, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ben. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. It's quite a morning, but we thank God for life, strength, and everything He gives. Well, let's get right into it. I just want to seek your opinion on 2 quick matters. The first one being this, and I'm looking at this message in Facebook Messenger, right? I found it curious, and I just wanted to share with you. Someone has sent me, someone who is not a friend on Facebook, someone I don't even know. The person says, Benjamin, please, can you call on the Bank of Ghana, the finance minister, and the economic management team to do something about the depreciating cedi? It's extremely frustrating for business and international transactions. I'll be happy if you could do this for me. And I just sent the person a thumbs up. I just saw it a short while ago. People are really feeling the pinch of the economic circumstances. Yesterday I went, I was at the office for quite a long time, and in the course of the day I had to step out to take care of something. The complaints are becoming extremely loud. What would be your take on something like this? I saw this, and honestly, I didn't have a response for the gentleman. I just sent him a thumbs up.
Yes, I know how you feel. I mean, you are in a very hopeless situation. You can't do anything. But managers of this economy must up their game. Crises are bound to come when we are with human society. But the real issue is how you deal with it. I have said, and I'll repeat here, once again, that once you look at problems, you must be quick to, extend a hand to people who can help you. That, for me, is the way to go. Where government finds itself, and of course, this country, there is a need for self-introspection and saying that, yes, I got it wrong. and that I am prepared to allow somebody to also come in and support. There are people who are ready and eager to support this state to come out of this, quagmire. But I can see from where I said that government is finding it difficult to draw them in. Please, they should, reflect on it and then extend that hand to them. And I tell you, they will help government to fix this problem. Let us remember that even though we are talking to IMF and all that, they are not going to support us now until the first quarter or so of 2023. So,
well, that is actually that has actually been revised. We just might get some help even before then.
Okay, then that's good news. Told. But you see, I always believe that we need to organize ourselves without going to anybody. Because look, if you travel to Europe, America, and all that, and you see all the beautiful things they are doing, all right, who helped them? So who will help you to build your state like that of America, that of Britain and France and whatnot? Nobody will help you. Just give you something, crumbs, and then you move on. And that should not be the way forward. We must have, a long-term program that would deal with this problem once and for all, without resorting to bailouts and all that. This will not help. So I think the time is now for us to reflect on all these things and take an important decision once and for all.
The second bit I want to just quickly run by you. It's interesting because I am on a page where there is this former deputy minister, and he served under the Kufuor tenure, and he had many portfolios. I'll not mention his name for a good reason, and because he's not given me permission to mention his name. But on that page, he posted, I'm sure you've heard about the gender ministry. Of course, we know Sarah Adjei has been sacked. We also know the president has now provided replacements who have to be vetted. The deputy minister for gender and social protection, children and social protection, will now be put forward as minister, and that 29-year-old member of parliament will now be put forward as a likely deputy. But on the back of that, this is what this former deputy minister who served under Kufuor put on the page. He says, in a time of austerity, we don't really need a ministry of gender, children, and social protection. The needs of the named constituencies are served by extant ministries, already existing ministries, such as education, social welfare, health, etc. Especially as we're talking about having too many ministers, being top-heavy as far as the executive is concerned. Do you agree with this former deputy minister? And this is someone, by the way, who had a number of portfolios, manned a number of portfolios throughout the 8-year tenure of John Agyekum Kufuor.
I support the call to reduce the size of ministers in this country. I've said it time and again. But for this one, I disagree. Why? We want to put emphasis on women, children, and then also bring to the fore the issue of gender. And that is why this ministry was created, so that we'll put in our all to support people who are found in this bracket. So for me, it is for emphasis sake, and it's not only in Ghana, it's across the globe. So we're giving attention to the vulnerable, the needy, which are women, which are children, all right? Who takes care of children? If you go and, you assume that their needs will be better taken care of under Ministry of Finance for that, for instance, or education, for instance. Yes, it is true, but the emphasis will not be there. So this one is for emphasis sake. So this one, I disagree with the gentleman. Yeah, he has his view, but I disagree.
And of course, there were international organizations and others that were calling for Sarah Adjei's head so that there would be a substantive minister because of the importance of this ministry. So divergent views on the matter. But thank you for sharing your take with us as well. Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. Boost for private businesses. National Action Plan launched. And Ghana has launched the National African Continental Free Trade Area Policy Framework and Action Plan to position private businesses in the country to fully take advantage of the AFTA. The policy framework and action plan is geared towards the harmonization of relevant policies, programs, laws, and regulations to boost the productive capacities of the private sector in the country, particularly micro, small, and medium enterprises, to harness the full benefits of the AFTA. Just a quick one. We've had different programs, from the AGRA program to so many others that we've had. But when you look at the AFTA, a lot of people say we're not harnessing the most benefits that we could, especially as we have the Secretariat here in the country. What would be your expectations of this new National Action Plan, which has just been launched?
Anytime we come out with things of this nature, we are all happy. But the real issue is, how do we walk the talk? It's more of a talk show, more often than not. But I believe that this one will be a different thing, and that whatever is put on paper will be implemented. And then we'll stop the talking and do the action. We have talked since, independence. Continue to talk, but we'll do very little. That will not help anybody. We come out with all nice plans, we craft all manner of ideas, but to no avail. This time around, we want to see managers of our society, our country, to be able to walk their talk and then bring smiles on the faces of all of us. That is all that we need. Anything short of it, please, we are not for it.
And it's interesting that you say we've been talking since independence. But interestingly, I would say that, it reminds me of Nkrumah when he said the black man is capable of handling, manning his own affairs. And Nkrumah showed that, as far as I am concerned. He started us on that journey. We were talking even aspiring to harness nuclear energy, the atomic center and all of that, at a time when South Africa even had not contemplated that. Yet, simply because we did not follow through on the things he did, we're still where we are. But in other stories, Parliamentary Committee to push for tax waivers for local printers. That is on page 13. Interesting, especially as the printing of textbooks finally has started. And the Committee on Education has promised to make a strong case for the removal of import duties on raw materials for the local printing industry. It is of the conviction that the removal of the duties will help boost the printing industry to enable it compete with foreign printers. Just hold on before you give your reaction. There's also utility tariffs to go up next week. I want you to tie that story into your reaction. So, utility tariffs are expected to go up next week, the first since 2017. Once announced, the tariffs are expected to come into effect on September the 1st this year. This comes after the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission had carried out nationwide consultations on proposals it received from the utility companies. A source familiar with the stakeholder consultation said, apart from the public fora across the 16 regions, the PURC also engaged identifiable groups and relevant sections of the public and had considered all sides of the arguments in arriving at appropriate tariffs. Appropriate tariffs, I would place them in inverted commas. Maybe a quick reaction to that. People have been complaining and saying, look, this is not the time for an increment. But the utility providers have also said, if we don't increase our tariffs, we're going to go under. We'll not be in the black, we'll be in the red. Your quick reaction to these two stories.
I will start with the utilities issue. If you look at the cost of production now, I have no doubt in my mind that there's a need for tariffs to go up. It is a fact. We can't deny that. But at the same time, economic conditions are hard. We are struggling to make ends meet and all that. So there must be a careful balance as to how you increase and how consumers will also feel. And that is why I'm sure the group has called a lot of stakeholders into action, where they've talked and discussed issues so that they come out with something reasonable for both the company and the consumers. So I think what they are doing is the right thing. I don't fault them, because you can't produce at this time and sell the way you used to yesterday. No, things have changed. economic conditions have changed, so there's a need to change accordingly. But they are not oblivious of the economic conditions of this country, so they will be mindful. And for me, there is nothing wrong with that.
Well,
I'll go for the second one, the printing of textbooks.
Exactly.
Yes. It brings a lot of relief to stakeholders in education, teachers, parents, and what have you. I have seen some of the pictures on your screen a while ago and all that. Good news. But there is also the unfinished business. There are other books as well, the electives, history and what have you, social sciences and the electives. We believe that government will also quicken the process and get all those books in so that we can have a whole gamut of the textbooks that we need to run the new educational curriculum. I have chanced upon some of the syllabuses and all that. Very great innovations in there. We have seen great ideas. The content, very good. So I am in a hurry to get all those books in the classroom so that teachers will begin to teach and learning starts, after which we can assess students appropriately. We need to plan these things far ahead of time, but the difficulty is that now we don't have finance, and then we are looking for support elsewhere. I believe that the government must rack its brains and then get all these things ready so that we can kickstart the program in no time.
Well, let's do some sporting news very quickly on the back page of the Daily Graphic. It says Safo Entry vows to improve start. I'll just summarize for you. Sean, Safo Entry competed in a heat yesterday. He placed fourth, but is in pole position to qualify for the next stage. Of course, we also have Benjamin Akakpo, who is ranked second as far as that 100-meter challenge is concerned. As far as the Commonwealth competition is concerned, he qualified with a time of 10.19, winning heat 7, and the two of them hopefully getting into the semifinals will do something great for Ghana. But it's been misery for the rest of our teams. Boxing is not performing, though we had quite a number of people making it to the next stage. And it's been more misery in hockey. Our women have lost to India, England, Wales, and yesterday they were thrashed 8-1 by Canada as far as hockey is concerned. The men also lost their opening match, but hopefully they'll be able to redeem themselves in Pool B. So that's a summary for the sports as far as the Daily Graphic is concerned. Let's quickly look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Government outlines plans for local businesses as President launches National After Policy Framework Action Plan. We made reference to that in the Daily Graphic newspaper. Bolter closed down after student violent protest. And then President appoints minister, deputy minister nominees for Ministry of Gender Social Protection. We've also touched on that. Man 48 allegedly commits suicide in police cells. Now, this one is a matter of interest. Let's quickly get into it on page 15 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And so the story, all right, so actually it is not on page 15 of the paper, which is interesting. Let me just check out for it. The story about, okay, so it is here on page 3, yet the paper reports it's on page 15. Well, printer's devil, I guess. So a 48,
some of these things come up.
Oh, yes, they do. A 48-year-old man has allegedly committed suicide in police cells at Tremaso in the Domais municipality of the Bono region. Solomon Tre, who was found hanging from the iron bar at the vent of the cell washroom, was invited by the police last Tuesday and detained at the Tremaso police station for offenses of alleged threat of harm and assault. A police source said Tre tied his neck with a nylon singlet he wore while in custody. Quote, an officer on duty at the counter saw the lifeless body hanging and the attention of other colleagues were drawn to the unfortunate incident, the source has said. And the body of the deceased has been deposited at the Presbyterian Hospital morgue at Tremaso for autopsy and preservation. People have raised some questions about this, especially in respect of the fact that he was, he had a nylon singlet on. and that, usually they would take away anything that could lead them to harm themselves. People have been raising quite a number of questions. The family itself has been exploring how curious it is that this happened. Of course, not to say that it is an impossibility, but what would your take be on a situation like this?
Yes, it's a sorry story. Why am I saying that? Because in the custody of police, I don't expect somebody to hang himself. But time and again, we get some of these problems up. It tells you that the police must do more, even though they have worked very well all this while. The police have been doing their work effectively. But sometimes when some of these slippages come, they must take them in their stride and work on it perfectly. I don't understand why somebody can commit suicide in a police cell. The question is the cell far away from the charge office? How often do the police visit those people or even peep through the windows that they find them there? All these things must be addressed so that we don't get a reoccurrence of these things. It doesn't speak well of the administration of the police with regard to that particular office. So they need to do something significantly to address this problem. I am aware that they do their best, but this one, there are more questions that I know with the system, they will begin to put 1 and 2 together and find the real answers for them.
I don't know what your take would be on this next story. It's on page 3 as well, and it breaks my heart because it has to do with the number of mentally challenged people we have on our streets. I don't want to refer to them with the L word or the C word, but mentally challenged people we have on our streets. And this is why. Because of, sometimes you would be passing by and you would see maybe some of them threaten you or do something, and there's practically nothing you can do. And if they harm you, usually, there will be practically no justice because they are out of their minds. Now, here's something that happened recently. A mentally challenged woman, just this Monday, allegedly stoned to death a pillion rider on top of the Kwame Nkrumah interchange in Accra. The deceased, yet to be identified, was on a moving Okada on one of the interchange levels when the woman struck him with a stone. The man died before passers-by arrived at the scene, an eyewitness said, and the unknown man was seen lying in a pool of blood with a large stone near his right hand. According to the eyewitness, when the victim fell off the motorbike, the woman pounced on him and attacked him with a large stone. Police later apprehended the woman after a mob had threatened to lynch her. She was handcuffed and transported in a police pickup truck, escorted by 3 officers to a pickup and taken to safety. But just look at this. If we had the right systems to grant, the right help, assistance to people like this, obviously this would not have happened, Doc.
Yeah, there's a breakdown of institutional, breakdown. Why am I saying that? This country, every time you're listening to health experts, they tell you about mental health challenges that they have, the very little support that we give to them. We pay very little attention to this type of problem that we have in our society. But take it or leave it, this is a reality. But we seem not to care until something of this happens. It is very unfortunate. I have been attacked before. I was, driving and I tried to negotiate a curve near Sakura, very close to Adenta. And then somebody like that threw a stone. But I saw the person earlier on. So I decided to drive to the other lane. Otherwise, by now, I would have been dead. So anytime I walk, I don't take chances. But these things, you never know. You'll be hit and you are gone. It's the time now for us to look at these things and listen to what the health experts are saying and support them. Because there are a lot of solutions they have come up with, but except that they've all fallen on deaf ears. We need to up our game and respond to some of these things quickly. Because look, in a society, you are likely to find some of these problems. I don't want to call them even mental health and all that. I call them people with special needs, and that we need to pay special attention to them. It can happen to anybody. But when we begin to pay less service lip service to some of these things. This is the result that we have. It's very, very unfortunate. Somebody going to do his normal work and at the end of the day is a ghost. Very, very unfortunate. I sympathize with the family and everybody associated with the person.
Let's get into the Daily Guide newspaper now. Two stories I've singled out. NPP chases former bosses for cars. Pictured there, chairman of the party, Stephen Ayesu and Tim. And also, students clash with police over exam malpractice. Stories on page 3. So let's take a quick look at them. Police in the Bolgatanga municipality in the Upper East region had a tough time controlling angry students of the Bolgatanga Technical Institute who were rioting over the detention of some students who were handed over to the police for entering an examination hall with foreign material. On Tuesday, August the 2nd at about 10 a.m., the police were called in to calm down students of the school who were angrily rioting and destroying school property and harming anyone that crossed their path. Now, despite the presence of the armed police officers at the school and the firing of multiple warning shots, the students remained adamant and rather continued destroying school property and throwing stones and any harmful objects they came across at the police and school authorities. It has been less than a year since students of the same school caused similar rioting in the school, which led to the destruction of school and private property and later caused the temporal closure of the school. That's the first story. In the second one, the MPP has tasked its former national, regional, and constituency executives to return any item in their position to the party with immediate effect. In a statement issued and signed by the General Secretary, JFK, the party noted, acting on the instruction of the National Steering Committee of the New Patriotic Party at its meeting, I write to inform you that you are humbly requested to return the party vehicle and any other party assets in your possession, if any, to the party. So rioting at Botek, and second, maybe this smacks of the usual practice. I've heard of instances, if you remember, a former Speaker of Parliament holding on to state property. I just don't want to mention the name.
Yes, we all know.
And armchairs and all of that. Why don't we have this conscience when it comes to you're done with the position, clear your desk, hand over what was in your possession on the back of your role? Why does this even have to come up and make the headlines in the newspaper?
You see, there are a lot of things here. One is socialization, and it cuts across to the riot and all that. You see, as parties, we need to socialize our rank and file followers about the do's and don'ts within a party. The party is a family, it's a legal entity. There are things that you are required to do and things you are not. When we get this basis right, we are not going to have such experiences all the time. In addition to this, you need education so that people will know that in a democracy, it is anchored on rule of law. You don't do things at your will. Your actions are defined by law. So all these things, parties must, build capacity of their members by giving them constant training so that they see that the property of a party doesn't belong to you. Even if you were the first chairman or whatever, once you leave office, you are gone. You leave it. The party is a going concern. It exists forever. But you have finished your office, you leave it. And this constant education, socialization, and the rest of them will do this trick. They need to go beyond the party, call experts to help them to build capacity. That's how we build a democracy. And it ties in with what the school riot and all that. Socialization has broken down at homes where we don't teach, we now refuse to teach children the do's and don'ts because it begins with what the family. You are taught the right things to do, and when you go to school, the school will add something to it in terms of curricular development and all that. And above all, institutional breakdown. When I say institutions, I'm talking about rules, regulations, norms, and all that. Once they break down, you see a student that he has an entitlement to riot, to disturb society, so that when police are doing their lawful duty, you get people chasing them out and all that. These are born out of what? Breakdown of institutions. We need to continue to strengthen institutions, continue to support education of people with regard to some of these issues, and then come home the features of democracy, which says that every decision we take must be a hint or link to what? Rule of law. Without rule of law, forget about it. We go back to Hobbes' and luck they describe as state of nature where you and I don't want to go. It's a chaotic situation.
Doc, just give me 1 minute of this and we shall get out of here for sports. Let me just acknowledge as well, Abubakar Sadiq, you're doing the watching live. You say, I'm watching you from the Alembele districts in the Western region. I always love watching your AM show with Bernice Abubedu Lanza and you. Thank you very much, Abubakar Sadiq, for doing the watching. To wrap and move on, so this is just by way of information, and I'll give you time to share your thoughts on this. MTN Ghana records 1.33 billion Ghana cedis in profit. Kudos to them. And Fidelity Bank's rating raised to A+. Check out details from there. But kudos to MTN and Fidelity Bank. The Daily Guide, what I want to highlight. Veteran actor Wache passes on. And he died aged 52 after battling an unconfirmed illness. And he passed only yesterday. We all know how Wache has put smiles on our faces, and this is a sad, sad development. Finally, SLS SIM deadline in limbo as NIA boss evades September threat. The NIA boss, Professor Tufua, has been speaking and saying they really don't have any timelines. It's a rolling thing, and that the September bit that was mentioned by the communications minister just might pass. Interestingly, I said this only yesterday, and Prof also added to that. That is in Republic Press. In some 40 seconds, your thoughts on that, and it's a wrap.
Yes, the NIA thing is a good thing, that we need a card that will, house all these data that we need for our daily lives. It's very, very important. You go to advanced democracies, you have some of these things, so that if we are going to elections, for instance, there's no need to struggle over who is a Ghanaian and who is not, who has attained the age of voting. When you have something like this, it serves the purpose that we need.
Right.
But the difficulty is with the SIM thing, where there are two issues there. Ghanaians were given the time to go through the process, and a lot of them refused. All right. It was extended, yet people complain. We are not careful about deadlines. Deadlines are important because they help in planning, they help in execution of policies and all that.
Right.
So if we're going forward, we need to strengthen these things. But at the same time, I want to also advise the minister that it's not all the time that you set up a deadline and you throw it away and then you come to set another one. A time will come, nobody will take you serious. So he must be careful about these things so that they plan very well. The time that you want to extend, you agree with stakeholders and you come up with something that is meaningful for all, so that when you lock the gate, whoever is at the back can go to whatever lens and complain. But once you stagger, then you create opportunity for attacks and criticisms.
Thank you so much, Doc, for making the time to be with us this morning. And as always, we wish you the very best of the day.
I'm grateful. I wish you the same.
All right. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, Director for the Center for European Studies. Up next, we have sports. Of course, we'll be telling you a lot about what has been happening at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. Time now to get into our big stories. One major big story, but others that we're going to be contemplating this morning on the AM show. And the major one has to do with the Ameri power plant. Stakeholders are asking government to allow the VRA to operate the plant per the 2016 agreement. The Africa Center for Energy Policy is worried about government's decision to enter into a sole-sourced agreement with Miscellaneous Company SA, South Africa, to transport and operate the Ameri power plant. Now, the energy think tank says the deal is not financially sound and further alleges that it has been bloated by millions of cedis. We'll be getting into that all-important discourse with Kojo Yaoche, policy lead at ASEP, John Ginnappo, former deputy energy minister, and Kojo Poku, an energy analyst. Gentlemen, A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation this morning. Hello, Mr. Poku. Hello, Mr. Yaoche. Hello, Mr.
Ben, how are you?
Ginnappo.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I assume that is Kojo Poku.
Yes, that's Kojo Poku. It's been a while I joined the Ben and Burn meeting.
Well, it's been a while. We had the privilege of having you on board. Let me start with you, Kojo. So we'll have a lot to say about this. We'll also have to touch on the LPG situation as well, among other dynamics. But when it comes to this latest release by ASAP and everything that they've been saying about the miscellaneous South Africa deal, what is your basic knowledge? I know you followed this since the years preceding. What is your basic understanding of the situation? And is miscellaneous actually doing any damage to us in terms of coming in? Is the contract a good one? Just give a basic, background to the question. We'll be getting into other details moving forward.
Okay, Ben, thank you. I think we have to give a bit of a background and education to this transaction. Mary being moved to Kumasi or the Ashanti region area is something that some of us have supported. I don't think that the question being asked is that anybody is against Mary being moved to Kumasi. For us, I think that power plant or the enclave being set up in the Ashanti region will be a good thing for the economy in the Ashanti region, because when we set up the power enclave in Takoradi, we are all seeing the benefits that it has accrued to the people of that area. So I think having the Ameri plant moving to Kumasi or the Ashanti region and creating a power enclave is a good thing that would also bring aboard other auxiliary benefits to the people of Ashanti region. So
I'm sure you're also considering the fact that the Ashanti region has had its fair share of power crises in recent months and over a year now, and that this should also help stabilize the system, especially those who use electricity commercially, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think it has all the benefits. I mean, and I said, for nothing at all, let's look at also the secondary benefits, okay? The primary benefit is having a power generation in the Ashanti region area. And also, the secondary benefit will be the jobs and all the benefits, the real estate and everything that will come up as a result of having such an industry in the Ashanti region. So those are the good things that we should all praise, that the initiative of creating a power enclave in the Ashanti region is a good thing. I don't think anybody's against that. Now, the second part is the education on the cost. Now, the cost is not, somebody say, but you are moving generating plants, how come it's costing this much? It is not just the transportation that is in the amount. There is a lot of EPC work. They have to build a switchyard. They have to build the enclave. They have to basically do piling on the ground, concrete, where the big generators will sit on. There's a lot of engineering, electrical work that has to go on. All that, plus moving the actual physical 10 machines from Takoradi to the Ashanti region is what is making up the cost of the over 30 million. So that education is
so for you from the start, you see some logic. There is some rationality in this upsurge in the pricing, because people are saying, how come initially Miscellaneous South Africa gave us a figure that was $25 million thereabouts, and for which we should have ordinarily sought a discount or some rebate. Then fast forward a few years down the line, we're going back to them, and instead of getting a discount, we're rather seeing an uptick in the price. What would account for the differences, even in terms of transportation?
I don't want to go into that side yet, because I haven't seen the breakdown. And I don't think a lot of us have seen the breakdown of the costing. Parliament, I think my big brother, Ginnappo, has asked Parliament through Parliament for the Ministry and VRA to present that to Parliament. I haven't seen the breakdown, but I'm just saying that when somebody here, it's an education that I'm given. When somebody hears that you are transporting a plant, Ameri from Takoradi to Kumasi, and it's 35 million, they think that it is the actual transporting alone that's 35 million. I'm trying to give a bit of an education that there is engineering work, there is site preparation, and there's a lot of work that goes on, not just the actual physical transporting of the 10 engines that is costing the over 30 million. So I'm just giving the background. Then that said, we move to the structure of the transaction. What all of us, and ASEP is right to point out, everybody is really becoming to now ask questions, is the structure of the transaction. We are seeing that is the ministry that is leading the negotiation, trying to sign the contract and all that. And some of us feel that it should be DRA that should do that. Now, Miscellaneous has been the one that has been operating the plant in Mecca. Yes, but the point is, if they have been given a sole source, okay, to basically be the one to move the plant, because we are being told that they are advancing or pre-financing the process, which for me is what gave them the single source window, why PPA agreed that they should do a single source because they are pre-financing the process. If that is the case, then some of the questions coming up, which is Miscellaneous asking for a standby letter of credit, should not be the case. So those are some of the concerns that the civil society space have. It's really to do with the structure of the transaction, not the whether it's needed or should it be done or not. I think it should be done, but it's the structure that we should look at as well.
All right. Thank you for bringing me those details. Let me also bring in John Ginnappo, who is a doyen in the energy sector, former Deputy Energy Minister, into the conversation. Mr. Ginnappo, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on the AM show.
Thank you very much. I hope my voice is audible.
Your voice is audible. We both sound a bit tired, but I know it. I am. I can tell.
Very late.
I can tell. Forgotten country. But let's quickly take your fundamental views about this entire enterprise. So 2016, I mean, even earlier, the Ameri deal, when we were in the throes of an energy crisis and all of that, we brought in Ameri, a $510 million deal, which was a boot situation. And it was supposed to last a period of about 5 years for Ameri to recover its own costing and all of that. And then the transfer was to happen under certain circumstances. But here we are now being told that the deal worth about $25 million as far as the miscellaneous component, which came in later, was concerned, has now shot up to over 30 million. And we're also talking about the fact that the VRA, instead of bringing in miscellaneous, the VRA can play some of these localized roles. I just want your fundamental understanding of what has happened between the start of Ameri and now. We couldn't meet the 2020 target. It had to be pushed to 2021, December, and all of that. What exactly has happened up to this point? And do you have any concerns about how we're handling the miscellaneous angle to the conversation?
Thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, we have serious problems with this whole transaction and agreement. Very, very serious problems. And let me assure you, the minority side will take this up to the highest level and wouldn't relent on that.
Like where the highest level would be what? Where the highest level would mean what?
Using every parliamentary process to ensure that the right thing is done. Because we have
does that mean you're going to frustrate the process in Parliament?
Not frustrate. Ensure that the right thing is done. We want the right thing done. This country, we must learn to do the right thing. So we're going to use every available tool at our disposal to ensure that there's full disclosure, there's value for money audit, the processes are duly followed. But let me just lay this foundation briefly. Like you rightly said, it's a boot agreement. It was a 5-year agreement. Ghana government was not supposed to make any financial commitment or outlay. What will happen is Ameri will bring the plant, and then as they sell the power, based on the tariff structure, they would recoup their money, and after 5 years, the plant becomes a property of the Republic of Ghana. Of course, like I said, there were some issues, and so it was extended to 6 years. 6 years is elapsed. The money has been paid, and so the plant is the property of the Republic of Ghana. If you look at our correspondence with VRA in 2015, what we envisaged was that VRA would understudy the plant operation. And then after the 5 years, VRA would then assume ownership of the plant and manage it. And this is a General Electric plant. VRA engineers are very, very familiar with GE plants. And so what we were expecting is that after this period, what government would be to transfer the plant to VRA. VRA has the technical competence. In fact, the ministry only came in because we had an emergency, like you rightly say. It's not the job of the ministry to be going into power purchase agreements and contracting power plants and all. So our fundamental position is that transfer the plant to VRA. Let VRA take ownership of the plant. And then they would decide if they need a third party, like miscellaneous or whichever group, to engage them and maybe build capacity with them. So I have an issue. The fundamental issue is, why is the ministry and government still keeping the plant?
And I was about to ask you exactly that, but what do you think could account for the transfer not being done to the local entity, the VRA, as per initial plans? Why do you think that is happening? Is it that the VRA's capacity has been hobbled in any way between the time period, or do you feel there could be something at play?
We met VRA as a committee, a Mines and Energy Committee. The engineers of VRA were clear that they have the capacity to manage that plant. They are managing TAPCO, they are managing TICO, they are managing KTP, they are managing T3, they are managing several other plants, some of which are even more complex than this. This is a modular plant, 10 plants. Even if one is down, the rest would work. And this is a plant that runs on gas. It's easier running these thermal plants on gas than on light crude. VRA has managed far more complex machines than this one. So managing this plant is not difficult at all. So the technical issue has been settled. Now the financial issue. The ministry has written to VRA that they don't have money to establish a common LC. And that is VRA that has the financial capacity to establish the LC. So the ministry has gone ahead to sign an agreement with miscellaneous. And then turn around to VRA and say, we don't have money. Our financial situation is very bad. So you establish an LC on our behalf for miscellaneous. I mean, what kind of crooked way of doing things is this? It's just not tidy. Sometimes you just have to be honest and frank with ourselves that what we are doing is bad. Then the issue of value for money. Is there a value for money audit? Who did the value for money audit? Why would they shoot up from the 24, 25 to 30 something? And the letter I'm reading says that, please, even as we speak, let me just read it for you. It says, as you are aware, the Ministry of Energy has secured approval from the PPA to sign a single source miscellaneous agreement with miscellaneous for an EPC contract at a total cost of 35.6 million. That is one. And the O&M contract at the cost of 1 million a month for 3 years. So we are not just dealing with 35 million. The 35 million is the EPC, the construction. Move the plant from Atuabu to Kumasi. That costs 35. But there's an O&M, $1 million every month. That is 12 million a year for 3 years. So 36 million. I mean, why would you go and do this?
And that just has to do with operation and management.
That is it. That's O&M is operation and maintenance. Or operation and management. Anyhow you choose to call it. But why? Then the issue of approval. Under Article 1815 of the Constitution, it is clear that when any state agency or institution is going into an agreement with an international body, and we've all established that miscellaneous is an international company, you must seek parliamentary approval. You have not gotten parliamentary approval, and yet you are asking VRA to establish an LC for them. What if you do not get that parliamentary approval? Is that not causing financial loss?
What would be the implications, for example, if they were not to secure parliamentary approval on this, as they've already started rolling out processes? What could this mean? Clearly, a judgment debt? Is that what the implication would be?
It's even illegal. You can't do that. Because you need parliamentary approval
to make that contract valid. Until you secure parliamentary approval, there's no contract. All you have done are your intentions. And so the Attorney General, when I was minister, would always write to us that in negotiating the contract, do not sign, at best just initial, and put a clause there which states that this contract can only become effective upon securing parliamentary approval. You've not secured parliamentary approval, and the minister was brought to parliament. You know, we raised this earlier before ASAP even, and let me commend ASAP for a very, very good job. I mean, they are doing a fantastic job. The minister came to parliament and said he hasn't signed the contract, he's still going through the process, and that he will come to parliament for approval. You've not come to parliament for approval, but you are establishing an irrevocable letter of credit for miscellaneous. Irrevocable. I mean, this is illegal. And so we'll be writing to VRA, we'll be writing to the ministry, and copy the Attorney General and the President, and caution them, and raise all these issues. We intend doing that today as the minority side.
And speaking of this illegality and that irrevocable clause that has been put in there, that would be quite a concern, as ASAP has mentioned, and for the minority as well. But would that mean that you have plans of hauling Energy Minister Matthew Opoku Prempeh before Parliament to answer questions on this?
Not just that. We might ask for a full parliamentary inquiry or parliamentary probe.
A full parliamentary inquiry or probe?
Probe into this. You can do that. We are likely to move that. I'm not the leader in Parliament. I'm the leader of the minority side on the mines and energy. And this is my proposal to leadership. I'm trying to reach the chief whip so that we'll take this matter up and escalate it. But we are saying that let's do the right thing.
Right.
What is so special about miscellaneous that you have to sole source them? What is so special about them?
But you see, when it comes to this issue of sole sourcing, I mean, during your administration's tenure, we've been told so many things about the adequacy of same in certain circumstances. Is this not one of those circumstances? And does it, raise red flags simply because it is being sole sourced? Is that the concern?
Don't forget that a minister was dismissed because of the same company. If you recall the Mary Innovation, it's the same company.
You're talking about Gh Genome.
Yes, that created a huge problem and the minister was dismissed. So when you are dealing with such a company or its affiliates, you ought to be very, very cautious and tactful. Look, if you have a situation where the cash waterfall is a guarantee for payment, any bank in Ghana will give you that money. Take it from me. Once the cash waterfall is the guarantee for payment, any bank in Ghana that you approach will be more than willing to give you this 30 or 35 million. Because there's guaranteed payment. So this issue that they are giving you money and all that is neither here nor there. Because the LC by itself is an instrument, it's a financial instrument that guarantees payment backed by the cash waterfall. This doesn't meet standards.
It doesn't meet standards. Before I move on to ASAP and Kojo Yauche, I just want to find out from you. Do you feel then that there could be some overarching interests in all of this that are pushing this deal through? Because to all intents and purposes, from everything you've said, it would not necessarily be practical the way we are going, which is reflected by ASAP's release. But then what do you feel could be the undercurrent of interest that could be pushing this forward?
First of all, clearly, you can see some individual interest in that. Because all you need
individual interest leaning towards where? Leaning towards where? The sector minister? What? I mean, which interests?
I do not want to personalize it. I want to look at the process. I want to look at the issues. I want to deal with the germane issues. That in this country, there are processes and procedures that all of us ought to follow. The Procurement Act, and especially the Public Financial Management Act is very, very clear. And so I'm cautioning the minister
and cautioning VRA and all those who are going through this route. There are consequences. Please go and read the laws very well, read the Constitution, read the Public Financial Management Act, and ensure that you do the right thing. If everything is above board, if what you are doing is genuine, if what you are doing is transparent, why can't you just come to Parliament? I mean, why? What prevents you from coming to Parliament?
Good question. Let me hold you just there. Let me bring in Gh Yauche. He is policy lead, petroleum and conventional energy at ASEP. Gh, a very good morning to you, if you can hear me.
Good. Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Right. Let's take a quick look at this scenario. We've already laid the background to it, dating back to 2016 and then even the Boakye Ejako element. But you raise significant questions about the protection of the interest of Ghana as an entity. And in your release, you have quite a number of points beneath this allusion. Let me just run a few of them by you. First of all, you ask, what was the basis for the Ministry of Energy relieving Ameri of its obligations under Section 26 of the Boot Agreement approved by Parliament, even before an independent condition assessment of the plant was conducted? And that is something that is re-echoed by the former Deputy Energy Minister. Then you say in point B, given that METCA or the PPR or Miscellaneous was not a party to the Boot Agreement, how was the company going to be held responsible for the transfer of commitments under Section 26 of the Boot Agreement? Again, a legal twist. And C, what was the benefit to Miscellaneous for assuming the risks of the commitments under Section 26 of the said agreement? We note particularly that the transfer of title agreement did not contain any liabilities for delivering on the commitments. I want you to break this down for us, because Ameri had its own obligations, which it had to meet in terms of even ensuring that at the point of transfer, the plant met certain standards. You say those standards have not been met, that Ghana is being given the short end of the stick. Break this down for us for proper understanding.
Good morning to your listeners, and I want to thank the Honorable Ginnappo for laying a very good foundation. It seems this morning we are all singing from the same hymn book. The Boot Agreement has some conditions that has to be met before the transfer of the plants to the government of Ghana. And those conditions are based on a certain independent assessment that should be done to ensure that everything meets the equipment manufacturer standards, as we have indicated in our statement. Now, before that independent assessment could be done to show whether the plant is in good condition, the minister wrote to Ameri that it had agreed with Miscellaneous to do whatever rectification works to put the plant in good condition. So I am waiving your responsibility under the Boot Agreement to do those works.
But that is rather curious, right? Because per the original agreement, Ameri was supposed to do all of this at no cost to us,
yes.
to the state, Ghana. So that is very curious.
Yeah, it is. That is why we are asking the questions that, I mean, what is the benefit to Miscellaneous in this case? And now it is becoming evident that because they wanted to sole source the agreement, both the EPC and the O&M agreements to them, that is why they made all of these arrangements. Now, whatever.
So basically, I'm sorry I keep interjecting. But basically, this was to get them in from that back door, that, like you're suggesting, so that moving forward, it would make sense to continue with Miscellaneous. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. So that now every cost that Miscellaneous incurs in trying to put the plants into order will be recovered from the new arrangements that they are trying to enter, which is additional cost to the state. Because the independent assessment that was done eventually showed that 4 of the plants needed rectification works. And the question we were asking is, if Ameri, before the independent assessment was done, was let go, absolved of their responsibility, then who is paying for that rectification works to be done? And it is now showing that miscellaneous, if they get it done, they will recover it from the new contract. That is why, I mean, the question you asked, why sole sourcing, it is now becoming clear that is why they want to sole source it to them. Because if you have this arrangement with these people and you go and give it to somebody else, then how do you pay for it? So the whole, like Honorable Ginnappo said, the whole thing doesn't look clean. The whole process is tainted from who is leading the negotiations. I mean, the minister told Parliament that it's VRA that is leading the negotiations. But from the letters that the Honorable Ginnappo was reading to you, it's clearly the ministry that has set its own deal up and have packaged it and sent it to VRA that, now that we are done with this, can you provide some guarantees for us to be able to commit the people to do the agreement, which is not something that should be done in this country. We are very more interested in the process of how things are done in this country. We, number one, are even against the relocation of the plants to the Middle Belt. I mean, there are far better alternatives of achieving power stability in the Middle Belt. And we have always been cautioning government that you could retool the transmission infrastructure. The Pogwasi and Omasu line, for example, 33 kV. If you strengthen that, you do that upgrade, right, you bring more stability to the Middle Belt. We were also exploring the idea of
Mr. Yaoche, I seem to be losing your sound. It seems to be dipping a bit.
Can you hear me now?
Better.
Right. So there are options for government to do this at a cheaper cost. Because if you move these plants to Kumasi now, you are now going to talk about how do you get fuel supply to them. Moving the plants to moving fuel, gas to Kumasi, you are going to build more pipelines. And the government is going to subsidize the gas that is going there. All of it at a cost to the state. The power sector, like we've always been saying, is bleeding from debt already. So we don't need much of this additional unnecessary costs that keeps piling from suboptimal decisions that are being made in the energy sector.
Now, beyond the likelihood of a judgment debt, per the decision by the state, Ghana, our energy ministry, and others, to basically allow Ameri to wash its hands of its contractual obligation that was required before miscellaneous came into the picture, they then drew down their letters of credit to the sum of about $14 million. What this implies is that beyond the judgment debt, if miscellaneous fails to deliver, the buck stops with the state, Ghana. We will have to bear the brunt of the cost. How dangerous exactly would that be in terms of this deal?
I mean, as it is now, we have no formal agreement with miscellaneous on doing the rectification works. The nature of that agreement is not known to anybody. Maybe when in the final contract, that is where they will put it. So the liability is already on government to do those works on the units of those plants. So if the deal falls through, obviously government has to, if it intends to continue with the works, if it intends to continue with the relocation, government have to foot that bill, which we currently don't have. So the liability is already on government. Whether the deal goes through or not, we are still going to pay. And if it goes through, they are thinking of recovering that from the cash waterfall mechanism, which means that, I mean, we are, all of us as power users are going to pay for it. It will reflect in the tariffs that we'll have to pay. That is the kind of liabilities that we are bringing onto ourselves.
Let me move on to Kojo Poku. You've heard quite a lot from Honorable Ginnappo as well as Mr. Yaoche. What is your reaction? Because you started off on the tangent of the cost and what other elements could go into the costing of same shooting up from around 25 point something million dollars to about $36 million. And you introduced the element of miscellaneous coming in at this time with the different cost factors to manage this for about 3 years, and then also taking on the supposed liabilities of Ameri as far as the operation and maintenance, as far as dealing with the plant to make it fully ready for transportation from Obuasi to Kumasi to meet other power fluctuation considerations. But the point is, when you listen to what has been said, and you listen to the dynamics when it comes to the likelihood of a judgment debt, when it comes to what would fall on us, the financial onus that will fall on us should miscellaneous fail, do you feel this is worth it? Hello, Kojopoku.
That my brother, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, okay. So let me start off on this tangent. It's very unfortunate that my brother from ASAP says that he's objecting or he's against the relocation of the plant to Ameri. It's very unfortunate he would say that. I think let's look at this transaction in its context. The structure requiring the ministry to bring further and better particulars to the public discussion for us to understand that there is no ill transaction. But I don't think that Ashanti is only about transmission line. Okay, like I said earlier, creating a power enclave in Ashanti region is something that has a secondary benefit. So it's unfortunate he's saying that he's against that, but there are benefits that will come to Ashanti that some of us are pushing for. Let's put that aside. Look, I am 100% for the ministry coming and giving further and better particulars. Two, I think that the
so you agree that as of now there is a paucity of information and the ministry must act swiftly in closing those gaps when it comes to information?
Yes, 100%, okay. Because most of these things is only when Honorable Ginnappo acts at the committee level that some of these information started coming up. So the ministry, for me, I have been informed, and I was informed that it was VRA that was leading the transaction. But as we are now aware, it's the ministry that is taking a leading role and only asking VRA for a standby letter of credit. Now, let me...
Hello, Mr. Poku, we are losing you. I do not know whether that is Kojopoku, but we appear to have lost him. But he was making the point. I just want to quickly confirm with you, Mr. Yauche, before I move on to Gh Genopro. Did you suggest, I may have missed that you are technically or fundamentally against the moving of the Ameri plant to Kumasi? Did you say that?
Yes.
Right.
I mean, the reason government is giving for doing that is to inject some stability. Because somewhere last year, we were having a lot of voltage problems in Kumasi. The lights keeps going and off. So government wanted some generation there to provide stability. And we have always maintained that there are better options of achieving that than moving a plant from Obuasi to Kumasi. I mean, this planning, we feel, does not take into account the demand dynamics or the demand profile of the country. I mean, if you look at how much power is consumed and you segregate it, why would you want to take, and it's not only Ameri that government wants to move to Kumasi, it wants to move car power, it wants to move, not even move, a new car power plant there, a new AXA plant there, and a new VRA plant there, all of which is going to somewhere around 900 megawatts generation in the Middle Belt. And this is a government that has always complained about excess capacity payments that it is incurring. How much power is being consumed in the Middle Belt to the extent that you want to generate about 1,000 megawatts in the Middle Belt? Who is going to pay for that? So sometimes we have to take a pause and look through the options. Who is planning the demand in the power sector? Yesterday, I heard a man say that, I mean, if you look at the Gh power supply plan, for example, they mentioned that you need. It is because government has consistently said, I want to move it there. So the technical people have stopped thinking beyond what government is proposing to them, instead of finding more technically sound options, alternatives that is not going to cost us this much. That
point made by way of explanation. We have Kojo Poku back. Kojo, so you heard Mr. Yauche giving some explanation. He feels, looking at our energy mix, looking at the situation in the country, why even move this to the middle belt? And that we should take a chill pill when it comes to some of these movements, because guess what? In the end, it is added on cost that the national kitty simply cannot deal with currently. Maybe you can take a quick look at that before you move on with the point you were making.
Hello, Ben, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, Ben, look, brother shouldn't go into that conversation. This relocation of plants to the middle belt is not this government's implementation. It's a technical report. My brother Ginnappo will tell you 100% that it is something that Greco and all technical people have come up with.
Point made. It doesn't matter whether it's a technical report. The point is, if it's not necessary, relevant, why go ahead?
Let me land on this. We have all our generation in the shores of the country. For even security reasons, it is not prudent to have all our generation in the shores of the country. So moving generation to the middle belt is something that all technical advice to all governments have been that we need to establish our enclaves in the middle belt. So let's not move into that conversation. It does that, it basically spoils what we are going to discuss. Okay, because it doesn't make the organ well with the point of view that he's saying that he's against the relocation or creating power enclave. When we created power enclave in what was in Takrady? What was Takrady's power consumption when we created power enclave in Takrady? We shouldn't go there. Let's look at the structure of the transaction that we have it and correct it if it's wrong. Okay, that is where we should focus our concern, not where government decides to relocate power plants.
On the other point you were making.
Okay. So now, the other point I'm trying to make is this. Look, the structure of the transaction, which is the government, miscellaneous asking government to provide a standby letter of credit. For me, I think it's 100% erroneous for miscellaneous to ask government to provide standby letter of credit, especially when that is one of the conditions that they were giving the sole sources. Okay, now, if the government of VRA has 35 million or 71 million standby letter of credit, then they can use that money to do the work. They don't need you miscellaneous. Okay, because when you go to the bank to ask for LC, the bank will put a lien on your money and then give you an LC. So if I have the money in the bank, why do I need you to advance me the money? So miscellaneous should relook at the transaction. If they want to do it, they should stop asking for standby letter of credit, because for me, that ask in its own defeats the purpose why we took them on as a sole source company. And they should, if they want to do the work, they should do the work and forget the SLP.
Is it a demonstration of bad faith for miscellaneous to do this about turn? Is it a demonstration of bad faith?
Well, I was not part of the negotiation, so I don't know the initial conversation and what it turned into to say that it's bad faith. But what I was making earlier is that the advisors at the ministry should help the political leaders. Look, I don't think the minister has any intention that, I will bring in a company who's going to advance me money, and later when the company come and ask me for SDLC, I knew about that. I don't know, I was not there. But the technical advisors, the financial advisors at the ministry, at Ministry of Finance, should be able to tell the minister that, look, an SDLC is a cash instrument. Okay, if I give you an SDLC, it means I have the money. That's why I'm giving you an SDLC. So if I have the money, why do I need you to advance me the money? Okay, so for me, that is the structure of the transaction needs to be looked at. And that is why we keep telling government and the ministries that, look, involve civil society in some of these things. We can point out certain things to you that you might not be able to be aware of initially. So for me, look, we've given miscellaneous, no contract has been signed. So I don't think no contract has been signed, no money has been spent. Any judgment debt is in the air yet, because we've not committed ourselves in the form of a contract. Okay? But I personally think that VRA should be the one to basically run. Like my brother Ginnappo said, if VRA feel that they need to engage miscellaneous to basically help them do certain work while the plant is relocated, or for them to relocate, whatever, but VRA should be the lead, not the ministry.
Kojo, hold for me there. Let me bring in John Ginnappo. Interesting thoughts that have been shared thus far. And before I get to the VRA end, before I get to the technical arrangements, how the VRA has managed such entities since the 1990s and why maybe it may be the best fit, and we get into what staff of the GRA, senior staff, have been saying. How do you react to this? Because Kojo Poku says, listen, it's up in the air to even think about any judgment debt situations. As of now, we are not there yet. But also consider the June 15, 2022 parliamentary presentation as far as the Ministry of Energy is concerned, and the fact that the AG, the Attorney General, had gone through the said documents and giving it his stamp of approval. Does that not mean there shouldn't be any legal impediments, basically, moving forward on this deal?
Let me just deal with some quick issues. First of all, I think that both Yaoshe and Kojo have a valid point when it comes to the relocation. But what you want is a resilient power system that is stable, that is reliable. And more importantly, you want to reduce the losses. Because as you wheel power from one location to another, you know, as energy is transported, there's resistance. So one idea is that take the plant to as close as possible, the center of consumption. So put it in Kumasi, it boosts the power, it gives you some resilience. Yahweh is also saying that you can equally do that by strengthening the transmission system. For instance, if you have a 161 kVA line and you upgrade it to a 330 kVA line, you can wheel much more power, it's much more effective, it's much more resilient. Or if you boost the substations, the main transformers, the primary transformers, they can equally do that. So I think that on both score, they all have a point. It's left for the ministry. And the technical issues follow the policy. So if government's policy is that, for instance, we want to go gas, we don't want to do light crude, then the technical people then have to take our policy that we are moving from light crude oil to a gas era and do the technical analysis. So always policy informs the technical work. So I think that we shouldn't split heads over that. Both of them have a valid point. And sometimes you take decisions not based on accounting of financial profit, but on economic profit. And when it comes to economic profit, you're going beyond just profit and loss and looking at the other issues, opportunity cost, comparative advantage, and all those issues. So let's discuss it. Now, the other point I want to make is that we've had 6 years, and as a country, you see, we're all growing, so we must learn. We knew that America will hand the plant over in 6 years. What were we doing as a country? Because the minister says VRA doesn't have the technical capacity. I disagree with him, but I'm saying that assuming, without admitting that VRA did not have the technical capacity. So for the 6 years, couldn't we have trained our VRA staff to take over the plant? That's a failure.
Especially knowing the terms and conditions of the contract.
That is what I'm saying. We knew. It's not like it just sprang up on us. We've had 6 clear years. GRS engineers are one of the best. In fact, during my time, Sierra Leone, about 4 other countries came to Ghana pleading with us that we should second some of our engineers to come and help them. And VRA, we can even export know-how. So I'm saying that for 6 years, you couldn't do anything, only to wait. So this issue of technical capacity doesn't come. The second one he says is financial. If you look at what is happening, it's obvious that VRA rather has a financial capacity. Because eventually you are falling on VRA to establish the LC. And they can only establish the LC if their balance sheet is good. And because of the ESLA levies and payments, VRA's books are beginning to get better now. And when you have the cash waterfall as a backstop to pay, you can easily raise that financing. So I think that this issue doesn't come in. Now we said, oh, there's no financial outlay yet. There's no agreement. If there's no financial outlay, there's no agreement. Why ask VRA to establish the LC? That's a critical question. You don't have a formal agreement. Your agreement with miscellaneous hasn't kicked in yet. And yet you are establishing an LC in their favor. I mean, it defies logic for me. It doesn't make sense. So please, let's all learn from these issues and do what is right. It may be true that the Attorney General has issued a certain legal opinion or whatever. But you see, we've been entrusted with a position. Let's learn to do the right thing. Let's learn to do what is right and proper. If you ask me, for instance,
is that to suggest that what is being done now is wrong and improper?
Oh, there's everything wrong with it. Even if you listen to my friend Kojo says that he disagrees that an LC should be established for access. In fact, all of us, if you listen to the three of us, everybody has one issue or the other with this whole agreement. So it's not tidy. It's not tidy. Let's face it. It's not tidy at all. And for me, there's a lot wrong with that. So I'm saying that even me, today when I look back, if I had my way, the AXA agreement, for instance, I would have done a boot with AXA. Because AXA, as the contract has run to its end, it's a 370 megawatt plant. My information is that government is allowing them to continue to run. Government hasn't renegotiated. Government hasn't come to parliament yet. And yet this AXA plant is being allowed to run. So I think that, look, government might have some good intentions, I don't know. But let's learn to follow procedure, follow due process, do what is right and proper, and serve the interests of this country.
Let me quickly run this by you before I move on to my other guests. So when you look at ASEP's release, it talks about the reaction of the senior staff of the VRA and a few points that they make. One of the highlights is that miscellaneous SA to undertake operations and maintenance activities instead of VRA. And they say VRA, first of all, has the requisite capacity and technical know-how, knowledge, skills, mix, experience, etc. in hydro, thermal, and solar power generation, and can effectively and efficiently undertake the O&M activities. So they get that question out there about capacity out of the way. 2, the VRA undertaking the O&M activities would lead to lower cost of power. That is what they are suggesting to consumers, since VRA's cost of generation is generally lower than that of the independent power producers. They go on to make the point that if the VRA undertakes the O&M activities, any value from it would be for the benefit of Ghanaians and not foreigners, in this case, miscellaneous South Africa. There's also the VRA undertaking the O&M activities would lead to the authority recovering some of the losses to the sum of $11.28 million per month, which you alluded to, Mr. Ginnappo, incurred under the 5-year Ameri deal. And then moving on, some of the information that has been required from the ministry for more transparency, like Kojo Poku has intimated, a copy of the EPC contract on the relocation of the Ameri power plant, a copy of the Public Procurement Authority approval for the contract, a breakdown of the total cost of the relocation, which will also feed into what Kojo Poku has been saying about other dynamics that could be at play, a copy of the request for proposals and notice of request for proposals, a copy of the tender evaluation, confirmation of whether or not it is the same miscellaneous SA company that was engaged in the attempted novation of the Ameri power plant in 2018. That is of interest to me, and I'm sure to you as well. And then, finally, copies of all other documents related to the EPC. How relevant are these, and how do you respond to the claims made by the VRA? Very briefly, John.
Yeah, first of all, I would recommend to all of us stakeholders in this whole energy sector to read ASEP's document. It's a well-researched document, and let me commend it. I've had disagreements with them before. Let me commend them. That is how you build a nation. There's no doubt in my mind that VRA has the capacity to run that plant. I'm clear in my mind. There's no doubt. There's no shred of doubt, because I've interacted with them as Deputy Minister for 4 years, as ranking member and as a member on the Mines and Energy Committee. And I've read a lot of documents from them. In fact, their comfort zone is the GE plants. And this is a General Electric plant. So there is no doubt. And then the 2 is the financial. There's no doubt that they can raise the financial capacity to address the financial challenge. So, in a nutshell, not to belabor the point, this decision is not in the best interest of this country. Transfer the plan to VRA, let them do the right thing. When they come up with the roadmap, then they will come to you, the minister, and brief you that, minister, this is what we want to do, A, B, C, D. Do a presentation. And when you are satisfied as minister, you give the green light. But when you, the minister, you are leading the whole transaction, negotiating, and then taking it to VRA. No, it's just not tidy. There's everything wrong with this whole.
So very quickly, gentlemen, I want us to quickly look at this so then we talk about another crucial issue when it comes to gas. But so for you, John, this will be your final take on this specific matter before we move on. What in the immediate term, what in the immediate term do you want to see? In some 30 seconds, what in the immediate term do you want to see? And what would you do as member of the Energy and Mines Committee of Parliament? What are you going to push for in the immediate term?
Full disclosure, first of all. Where is the contract document? Where is the PPA approval? The cost breakdown? The value for money audit? Why did you arrive at all these issues? Full disclosure, that's one. On the parliamentary front, I'm trying to reach my chief whip. I've just sent him a message. We would escalate this matter in Parliament. If it means a full probe, it means bringing the minister. We also have a session with VRA, because under the Public Financial Management Act, we are supposed to meet all the agencies. We've met Gridco, and that's where the issue of the transformer that Yauche mentioned comes in. They say that if they can boost their transformer, they can still wheel this power. So we'll meet VRA as well. We'll delve into all these matters. And you see, all what we want to do is to try as much as we can to save this country. We may not be right, but at least let's learn to do the right thing.
All right. Gentlemen, we have just about 10 minutes to discuss about another 2 or so issues. I want us to make the most of the time. So very quickly, with your sum-up comments, what is the next step as far as this situation is concerned? 30 seconds to Kojo Poku, 30 seconds to Mr. Yauche. I'll start with you, Kojo.
Well, yeah, so like I said, I think there are lots of questions that need to be answered. So we need further and better particulars from the ministry. The ministry should come and be upfront and center. Look, most of these things are good initiatives. The only problem that it becomes is the way it's implemented. And I have been always in favor of full disclosure and making sure that people don't think that something untoward is going on. That is one. Then secondly, I think that Parliament, which is my brother who is saying that he's reaching his chief whip, they should be the guardians of some of these things because they have the power. Some of us, we just run commentary. So if we can get the parliamentarians to help us make sure the right thing is done, it will be the betterment for all, everybody, and also a good economy for the Ashanti-Man area.
Mr. Yauche, your sum-up comments on this as we move on.
But not to rehash what others have said, we need full disclosure and no circumstances and maintenance of the American plant given to any other entity than VRA. And we insist that prioritizing the retooling of the transmission system is a far optimal option than attempts to relocate plants in the country.
Let's take a swipe at another major issue. We know that gas tanker drivers have, been up in arms. They have been striking. And we also know that operators have also declared a strike, which has led to some shortage, artificial or real, when it comes to liquefied petroleum gas. And that is also becoming a huge problem. We've spoken to people, bakers, business people who are basically saying, without this product out there, we are left to the mercies of so many things. And even the cost of it currently is a problem. I'll start with you, Kojo. What is your reaction to this situation, and how do we resolve this issue?
Thank you. Yesterday, I had a chat with some of the officials at SPA, and some of the clarification that says there is a multifaceted of problems that is involved in this strike. I think the key at the center of this problem is the ban on building of new filling stations. I think what happened is that in 2017, that when there was that explosion, there was a ban on all new plants being built, and the CRM, which has now become an albatross. Nobody knows when the CRM is going to be implemented, was introduced. And everybody was like, look, we are going to do CRM. And it has turned into a political football. As of now, 4 years, 5 years down the line, CRM has not been done.
Right.
The problem is that there are 61 filling stations or gas filling stations that were at various stages. And the operators, the operators initially were against CRM because they felt that they would take away their livelihood. And the MPA, throughout the last couple of years, have gone at length to ensure to make them know that the CRM would only add to what they are doing, not take away from them. But their concern is that there's 61 filling stations, gas plant filling stations that are at various stages. And they wanted those people to be able to allow to complete the plan. I think MPA has taken it through government to cabinet and to the various approval levels, and that 61 filling stations, I'm told, they will be allowed to basically complete. Aside that, there won't be any new ones to be allowed to be built. So I think when that 61 is addressed, the operators will basically be at ease. Then also that with the tanker operators, for me, their demand is ridiculous. The tanker operators at point is asking that the MPA stop putting seals, which stops the stealing. They stop putting the tracking, which stops the stealing. Some of their demands for me, I think, is a non-starter.
Which of their demands? Which of their demands?
Say it again.
Which of their demands are a non-starter for you?
Which is the removal of seals that has been introduced. If you are transporting products and there's a seal that's put on there so that it stops you from adulterating or stealing, and you want MPA to remove it, that's a non-starter. I think what MPA is helping with is that they are mediating between the tanker drivers and their owners. When tanker drivers complain of salary, it's not a government matter. If a tanker, there are so many tanker owners in this country. If a businessman buys tanker and he employs the salary negotiation is between employer and employee. Government has got nothing to do with it. But the problem is that because they provide a vital service to this nation, MPA and the government and extension try to mediate when they have a back and forth with their employer. That is the role government is playing. It's not government that's going to increase the salaries of tanker drivers. There was a point that we were trying to use UPPF to basically get involved in that by looking out for some benefits for the tanker drivers. That's absolutely wrong. The government and the MPA have no business getting involved in the how much tanker drivers. Yes, they can mediate, which is what they are doing now, doing the mediation. Whether a tanker driver is paid 10 cedis or 20 cedis is really up to his employer. And I think that is how it should be.
If we still have John Ginnappo, I would just run this by you. So the CRM, let me just get the full term, the recirculation module. Exactly, cylinder recirculation model has not seen the light of day. And in the interim, those operators who went ahead, had contracted loans to set up these outfits and all that, have been affected by the wholesale ban, which years on has not been lifted. And now they are saying, look, this is costing us money. We cannot pay our debts, and something must be done about this model. What do you feel, first of all, is this a just action that they have embarked on? And what do you feel can be done to remedy the situation? Because on the back of these actions, gas prices are high, as per what we gather, and there's a mass shortage. How do we deal with this?
We do not have enough time, so I'll try and run quickly. Firstly, gas consumption has reduced by about 15% on a year-on-year basis. You would normally expect that gas consumption should be moving 10% and over. So even if you account for that, it means that we are seeing a 25% reduction. So already we are in the negative, and it's not good for this country. But when you reduce gas consumption, it means that you are depending on other wood fuels like charcoal and the rest, which has an environmental implication. The other issue that you raised is genuine. Government itself has just acknowledged. Yesterday, I listened to the minister following our statement, say that they have a point. Because from 2017, when you announced that you were going to do the CRM, You were supposed to roll it out by 2019. And I'm aware that based on personal interest, people just want to control this whole market. And so we're in 2022. You haven't been able to roll it. We don't even know when you roll it out. But more importantly, before the atomic incident, a lot of these filling stations that Kojo is talking about had obtained provisional licenses. You obtain a provisional license, then you go to your banks, secure loans and the rest. And then when you complete, you then go for the operating license. Following that incident, Cabinet, not the ministry, took a decision that no more licenses, including those who had obtained provisional licenses, gone for loans, and were even just about completing. And so now they are struggling and reeling under because the banks are chasing them. Minister has indicated that they would consider it. I'm told there's a cabinet meeting. We've issued a statement and calling on government that in today's cabinet meeting, they should review that policy, at least for those who obtain provisional licenses and when verified, they can be allowed to operate within the framework of safety measures and all that. So I think that is quite straightforward. Then we expect that government will listen to us. The final one has to do with the drivers and their conditions. I'm a member of parliament. You see, MPs, what we do is that we represent all of you. And so even in your studio, your welfare should be of concern to me. Because you maybe kindly check again. What the drivers are, I heard them say, and I spoke to some of them, it's not just the seal. They say that there's a tracking device. That tracking device is such that when you get to a place and you are tired and you rest for, say, 1 hour, it flags your vehicle as having diverted the fuel. That's what they are saying. So I think that all of us should listen to them. Maybe there's a communication gap and see how we can rectify that. I've also listened to the LPG Association, and they made the same thing that MPA flags the vehicle, and when they go to investigate, they realize that indeed there's been no diversion and the fuel is intact. So it's a technical matter. I'm sure we can resolve this issue. The other one is their welfare in terms of their salaries. It's of concern to me because in the petroleum sector, it's regulated. It's not a free market. And so if the margins are not good for them, the operators cannot pay the drivers well. So I've made a proposal that now that you have these tracking devices, you may no more need to spend over 150 million cedis on fuel market. So can we relook the fuel market and see if we can realign without necessarily increasing the margins on the petroleum products so that we can use that to adjust the transportation element so that these drivers could also be a bit more comfortable. So yes, government might say that it's a private element, but to the extent that you regulate them and set a price ceiling and even give them a margin for transportation, I think that all of us should be interested. Let's engage for that. Let's deliberate on these matters.
Right.
Knowledge does not reside in one person. I'm sure when we deliberate on them, we can find an amicable solution.
All right, hold for me, John, just as we wrap. Kojo Yauche, you have the final bite. What is your quick take on this? Hello, Kojo. It appears we may have lost Kojo Yauche, Policy Lead, Petroleum and Conventional Energy with ASEP. But that is how, gentlemen, we draw the curtains on this conversation. Of course, on the miscellaneous deal, we'll have a lot more time to see whether the EPC, the full details of that will be given to us. But Kojo Yauche joined the conversation from ASEP. John Ginnappo is a former Deputy Energy Minister, also on the Energy and Mines Committee of Parliament. Mr. Ginnappo, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for having joined us for the conversation, John. All right. And we also had Kojo Poku, an energy analyst. Kojo, thank you for doing us the honors this morning.
Thank you. And anytime. Okay, have a nice day.
All right, same to you. So that's how we wrap that conversation. But right before we get into our next conversation talking about the Genome Project and Sickle Cell, Jose, hello. How about treating your family to a summer holiday in South Africa? Come journey to South Africa for a good time in our beautiful country. Get to know the locals and our languages, and boy, do they have many. If you're looking to let your hair down, relax, or you're just in the mood for some fun family-friendly adventures, South Africa has got everything you need. So this summer, Wazanila, come this side, experience a holiday worth talking about. And oh, we don't stop there. Hello Ghana, happy moment is here. Let's storm World Cup Qatar 2022 with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water from Casa Preco Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water and text the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780#. You choose option 2 and follow the prompts on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks, and more instantly. So don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water, and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform. Of course, this advert is FDA approved. Terms and conditions do apply. Do stay with us when we return. A lot more on the AM show. Welcome back on the big stories on the AM show. And up next, we're going to be talking about the Gh Genome Project. What's that? Well, do stay with us. Our guest is Professor Solomon Fifio Foriakwa, who's president of the Sickle Cell Foundation of Ghana. Prof, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know when it comes to genomes, people will be thinking DNA, RNA, and all of these are already complex subjects to deal with, but somehow you break them down and you make meaning of them. So let's start with the whole concept of the Genome Project. Oh, what are genomes in the first place? Just to break down the conversation before we get into the project.
Right, thank you for inviting me. So a genome is the complete set of DNA that you have. So when I refer to your genome, it's your complete set of DNA, all the DNA you have. And so for every organism, all its DNA, we have one word for it, the genome.
Wow, that's interesting. I also know part of this is the RNA, ribonucleic acid, feeding into all of this. And also very important when it comes to our vaccines, for example. Now that we are talking COVID-19 vaccines and all that. What is that aspect of the conversation?
So RNA is a messenger. So the DNA is the instruction. So DNA is what we inherit from our parents. It stays in our nucleus. And it gives instructions for what we call proteins to be made. But the DNA stays inside the nucleus. And so it sends out an RNA as a messenger to go into the rest of the cell to make the protein. So RNA is basically a messenger of the DNA.
All right, so messenger and sender. If you didn't know, in simple terms, now you know. That's why you should watch the AM show. But let's talk about the Gh Genome Project. And I was just having a conversation with Prof earlier about Professor Ahene Frimpong, who recently passed, someone I knew personally, and whose work as far as sickle cell and dealing with it, especially in respect of children, is just fantastic. But tell us a bit about maybe your interactions with Prof, just to set the conversation on this foundation and what you've been doing, what the foundation is all about.
Yes. Professor Ahene Frimpong is a great loss to all of us. We call him Cough. Cough.
Why?
Kweku Ahene Frimpong. That's the abbreviation.
Oh, right.
I've worked with him
for Prof Cough.
Prof Cough, yes. All around the world, everybody called him Cough. I've known him for nearly 30 years, and he is very passionate about sickle cell disease. He started the Sickle Cell Foundation of Ghana for one purpose, and that was to bring to Ghana the quality care that we know sickle cell patients in the United States and Europe have access to. So that was really Cough's main focus, bring to Ghana quality services for sickle cell patients. One of the very first is to be able to screen all babies born in this country for sickle cell disease, because this is what is done in the United States and the rest of the Western world. Every child born in the United States is screened for sickle cell disease.
To give them a head start, in case they do have...
Absolutely, because we know that with sickle cell disease, infections are inevitable, and so you are going to get infections. And so the point of screening early is to then be able to give the children prophylactic penicillin. And so that is the standard of practice in the Western world. Screen babies if they have sickle cell disease. You put them on prophylactic penicillin. And so Koff's legacy really is that he was able to, through sheer tenacity and effort, get over 500,000 babies screened in this country from 1993 to 2000 through his efforts. And in so doing, nearly 10,000 identified to have sickle cell disease for whom penicillin was made available, essentially saving these kids from dying from an untimely death early in infancy. So Koff, we owe a great deal to Professor Ohim Frimpong for the work that he started here in Ghana.
And work that you are obviously continuing. I think I saw something in recent times in respect of, there have been calls in the past for the national health scheme to include some of these. And I see some inroads are being made in respect of that, all on the back of Prof's work and your work as well as a foundation.
It's largely Koff's work. And it was really fitting that before the memorial service that we had for him, that the government, through the National Health Insurance Scheme, added hydroxyurea, which is the standard treatment for sickle cell patients globally, to the essential list. And so the Ministry of Health has added that drug, and the National Health Insurance has added that drug. And so if you're a sickle cell patient, regardless of your age, now you have access to hydroxyurea. And not only the drug, but also the routine laboratory testing that has to go with being on hydroxyurea.
And that definitely is a gain, because that engagement I made mention of at the Kempinski Hotel back then had this as the focus. So at least that being achieved on the back of his demise still is a giant step, and his legacy obviously is going to outlive him. But let's talk about genetics and why genetic health awareness is important for all of us.
So genetics is really the study, and we've touched on this a little bit, of DNA of an organism, right? And, we have about 6 billion nucleotides. These are the units of DNA in all of us. And our DNA, we share the majority of our DNA sequence is basically the same. You and I are sitting here, 99.9% of the DNA sequence that we share is exactly the same. But there is that 0.1%, the 0.1%, that is different. And sometimes that difference is what causes sickle cell disease. That difference is what will make somebody at risk of getting prostate cancer in their family. There are families in Ghana that have prostate cancer, and there's a genetic basis for that. That difference can increase your risk of breast cancer. That same difference can increase the risk of several rare diseases. So it's important.
We even know that some races, if I may put it that way, are more susceptible, something like African Americans, Black Americans, to prostate cancer, for example, issues.
Absolutely.
So all of these dynamics, it is through these sequencings and others that we get to know and, of course, protect ourselves from them.
Exactly. And this is why it's so important that we make genetics part of our national conversation. Because, the genes that you inherit influences so many things. It influences your well-being, your health, but it can also put you at risk for a disease. And so the Gh Genome, our ultimate goal is to increase awareness about the role genetics play in disease, and also to make policymakers aware so that they can help us develop programs to train genetic health workers so they'll be able to do their work. For instance, we've started a first-of-a-kind master's program in genetic counseling at the University of Ghana. This is the first, actually, in sub-Saharan Africa, because the most important part of genomics is really the communication. You can do all the fancy work in the laboratory, but you need somebody to be able to explain the complexity of DNA to an average person, and genetic counselors are the ones who do that. And so Gh Genome Project is multifaceted. Is to raise awareness, is to train Ghanaians in genetic health, and also to make noise so policymakers will pay attention to genetic diseases.
You keep mentioning policymakers. I don't know what your take is and how much we're doing as a country when it comes to some of these. Of course, we made mention of the hydroxyurea end of things, but how much we've done in terms of other aspects of this. I also know that on the back of COVID-19, for example, DNA sequencing and other things, sequencing of sometimes these viruses has come to the fore.
Yes.
How important is it that we do these things in respect of diseases?
It's critical. And, COVID was bad, but there have been some good things come out of it. My colleague, University of Ghana, Professor Wandari and his team and colleagues in Noguchi did a great job, fantastic job, sequencing the variant of COVID that was basically affecting us in Ghana. And that was very useful because just like there are variations in our DNA sequences, viruses that infect people also have little variations here and there.
And so they mutate and all
They mutate and all of that. So it's very important for Ghana to have the capacity to sequence viruses that affect us, even though those viruses may be sequenced elsewhere. There may be little differences that will be found in the ones that come to Ghana. And it's important that we have the capacity to do that. And that is relevant, again, in terms of vaccine, how effective vaccines will be. And so overall, COVID has shone a light in this gap that we had. But, colleagues in Eugene, as well as elsewhere, are really stepping up and doing that. But that is for the viruses. What has been lacking is a focus on human genetics. And that is what our Gh Genome Project is about. It's about the genetics of humans, not viruses or bacteria.
Of course, both of them go hand in hand if we want to make advancements in medicine. But
absolutely.
Focusing on the genomic details that you keep making mention of, how relevant is it or how crucial is it to have especially those of children?
Oh, so for our focus on kids, children, is really so that the genetic information can be useful for their treatment.
Okay. So along the course of their lives.
Yes. So in this country, every year, probably 14,000 babies are born with sickle cell disease. So 1 out of every 50 live births is sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease is more complex. That's
quite a number,
yes.
1 out of every 50.
Yes, and it's more complex than we appreciate. We all know SS, SC, but there are other forms of sickle cell disease that are not so well known to the Ghanaian population. Sickle beta thalassemia, for instance. Sickle beta zero thalassemia is as severe as sickle cell disease. And yet, the inheritance of sickle beta zero thalassemia is such that one parent, when they do a sickle cell screen, will actually be negative, and the other parent will be positive, and they might have a child with sickle beta zero.
So in that instance, contrary to the popular view that you must have 2 sickling cells, 1 from each parent, in that instance, just 1 parent is enough to create complications for the child.
Well, 1 parent is not enough, except that the other parent also has a blood disorder, but it's not sickle. It's called thalassemia. So
blood disorder plus the sickling cell, and then you have a problem.
Yes, you have sickle cell disease. And so our focus on children is primarily so that the sequencing information will be useful. So in as much as there are lots of children with sickle cell disease, the degree to which they get sick differs. And some of that clinical differences is in the DNA. And so we want to sequence the DNA of children with sickle cell disease so that we understand the nuances of some of these clinical expressions. Apart from sickle cell disease, every year there are 400 children that get diagnosed with leukemias, cancers.
It's from the blood and others.
Yes, get diagnosed with cancers. And for some of these cancers, understanding the genetics of the cancer will help in the treatment, how well they are managed, and so on and so forth. So our focus on children is really because they are the ones that we believe the sequencing information will be put to use. There have been
much more than adults, obviously.
Well,
because if they've lived into adulthood, well, at least they've had some appreciable the challenges and all of that.
Yes.
But better deal with the children and give them a better future, right?
Yes, adults are not going to be left out entirely.
Right.
And so breast cancer, we've touched on, prostate cancer, we've touched on. These are also diseases that can have a genetic component. But our focus really is on children because they are most vulnerable in our society. But then once we get the ball rolling, adults will be welcome on board as well.
Now that you mentioned this, just out of curiosity, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know for cervical cancer, I think there is a vaccine of sorts that can be given. I hear it's pretty painful, but it saves you of the wahala, later on in life.
Yes.
Is there any approach you have towards that? I know in other, more wealthy nations, this is being done right from childhood at a certain age. Is that something you're pursuing?
We are not specifically pursuing that, but now that you've brought it up, cervical cancer is basically eradicated in the Western world because they are being screened.
Right.
And so really what needs to be done is early screening to identify potentially folks who have it, and then treatment can be given. Screening is really where we are falling behind in cancer. And if we can really do that, it will help a great deal.
Beyond sickle cell, we've spoken about other, aspects like you've just mentioned. Pretty long word, a tongue twister. You just mentioned the one where you have a problem with the blood, and then you have a sickling cell.
Oh, thalassemia. Thalassemia.
Okay.
Yes.
So there are different things you're looking at. Beyond this, are there any other insights you can give into other aspects?
Well, of genomics generally?
Yes.
The key
in terms of the diseases and what the foundation is looking at.
Okay, so I'm wearing multiple hats. So the Sickle Cell Foundation, our job really is to advocate for the improvement of care for sickle cell patients. As we touched on, Professor Himfrimpong was able to bring newborn screening to Ghana, and that is fantastic. His legacy will live on through that work. I'm very pleased that the Ghana Health Service is taking this on, and we are partnership with the Ghana Health Service really as a consulting role, just giving them advice for them to roll out newborn screening throughout the rest of the country. So the foundation has really done a great job on that. Now, there are treatments for sickle cell disease. Bone marrow transplant will treat someone with sickle cell disease.
It's a complex situation.
It is, but it's been done elsewhere, right? And so gene therapy will treat sickle cell disease. So the foundation is really going to focus on this treatment. We've already mentioned hydroxyurea, which is a pill that you take, but it does not cure the disease. It helps you manage the disease. So foundation moving forward is going to be really focused in how we advocate and we lobby government to bring these high-tech treatments to sickle cell patients in this country.
And speaking of this bit you mentioned about bone marrow transplants, I found it rather interesting because only recently I was reading about someone who I think is just the fourth person who supposedly has been cured of the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS, as we call it. He has a name that I've forgotten. They name them based on where it is that this happens, Berlin or something of the sort. And it was on the back of a bone marrow transplant for something completely different. But somehow it ended up, transforming. So that is how crucial some of these medical interventions are, really. Unintended, but very good outcomes. But let's talk about personalized healthcare and where that is headed. There is this project ongoing which contributes towards personalizing healthcare in Ghana, but there are also different dynamics because sometimes, the over-the-counter approach that we have in Ghana and how sometimes it becomes a bit unchecked and people sometimes even impact themselves negatively on the back of that. How do you find that development in Ghana? Where would you say this should get to? And can we get to the point like in the West where this is more of the norm, basically? It's nothing strange, but here it's still something that is in the teething stages.
I mean, over-the-counter medication is not unique to Ghana.
It's everywhere, basically.
Yeah, you buy medications, over the counter in the US and London and in Ghana. There's no problem there. We have actually, very good pharmacists in this country who can give you advice when you go to see them, whether or not, you can buy something without going to see a physician. But it's always best to consult with a physician.
It's like the malaria drugs. You can go without a test, but if you don't have it, I mean, what you could end up with as consequences over time could be disastrous.
Yes.
So that's a typical example.
It's always good to seek a physician's advice before you take medicine. I mean, that's just, you know. So if anybody's listening, yes, if you're not feeling well, don't self-diagnose and then go and purchase medication. See a physician. Very simple.
So with your foundation, to wrap the conversation, with what you're doing, what is the next step and your target populations across the board? What are your projections moving forward? What can we expect from the Gh Genome Project?
So the Gh Genome Project has four basically components. The first one is basically a public lecture series. The first is going to be on the 24th of August. Okay. And so you're all invited to the Great
Where
Hall,
is this happening?
The Great Hall of the University of Ghana,
right?
Where the Gh Genome Project will be launched. The second is we're going to offer free screening for sickle cell disease, prostate cancer, breast cancer. We're going to do this first one in collaboration with the traditional leaders of Osu, La, and Kole Gono. We are yet to fix a place, but most likely it will be at the cathedral, most likely. The third component of the Gh Genome Project is offering scholarship for Ghanaians to be trained in all aspects of genetic medicine. We're starting with genetic counseling. Very soon we'll start a new program in MPhil, Master of Philosophy, and a PhD in medical molecular genetics. The final one, the fourth one, is the sequencing that we talked about. Our plan is to sequence 1,000 Ghanaian children, 500 with sickle cell disease. We've already secured the funding to do that. We'll be looking to corporate Ghana to help us find money for the other 500. Once the launch is completed on the 24th of August in Accra, then we'll go on a regional tour. The very following week, we'll be in Cape Coast, giving a public lecture again at UCC, followed with free screening for the disorders I mentioned in collaboration with the Ugwa traditional area as part of the Afeshe Festival. Then we'll keep on going. We'll go to Wa, we'll go to Ho. The idea is to make a lot of noise so that everybody now appreciates awareness. And this is where, thank you again for accommodating us this morning to share the news of the Gh genome and the importance of genetics in our health. Ultimately, we hope that we'll raise enough awareness that people will be aware of their genetic status as much as people talk about their HIV status. Right? We want to basically, this is where we want to reach. Know your genetic status with respect to sickle cell disease, your risk to prostate cancer, your risk to breast cancer. Know all of these things. Then you'll be able to have make a better informed decision about your health.
And it's important that we do all of these. Interestingly, I checked my PSA. I know you understand. I'm not going to recently.
And it was low.
Tip-top shape.
Excellent.
Tip-top shape. Excellent. We thank God for the little mercies.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is great.
But definitely, Prof. Koff may not be with us, but we do have Professor Solomon Fifi Oforiakwa, President of the Sickle Cell Foundation, who is undertaking this brilliant exercise. We wish you and your team the very best.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's how we sew up this conversation, but there's a lot more coming your way. We're just 2 days away from the second clinic of the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair at the West Hills Mall. If you thought the Achimota Resale Center was good, this is going to be bigger. Ahead of that, we're having interactions with two of our sponsors, Cities and Habitats and Virtual Security Africa. All of that up next on the AM Show. Do stay. Well, thank you for staying. And you know, when you see this background and we get to this point, then we're talking, well, the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, 13th edition. And boy, has it been great this year. So we started with the launch. We've had the first clinic at the Achimota Retail Center. And now we're gunning for the second one at the West Hills Mall. Well, joining us this morning, we have Cities and Habitats. Daniel Ohene-Edo is Project Manager, Cities and Habitats, the Planned Cities Extension Project. We also have Loretta Ba, Client Service Executive, Cities and Habitats, also of the Planned City Extensions Project. Daniel, Loretta, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
So for you, especially as you were with me at the launch, I'll ask you, what has it been like thus far? 13th installment of the Habitat Fair. and being at the Achimota Retail Center, what has the vibe been like?
I think it's getting better by the day. Yeah, it's getting bigger, it's getting better. And what people are also beginning to realize is that it wasn't just some story or rhetoric that, you know, was coming up. I mean, the reality is there, or the realities are there for them to see. Quite a number have, you know, been to the sites after their first clinic.
Okay.
As for the calls and the interest, we can't.
You can't even number them.
Yes. So, I mean, because it's real, it's good, and it is what it takes. You know, yeah.
So what are they going for? The rent-to-own option? I mean, you have quite a package there for people. Tell us a bit about what you have on offer.
You see, let me say again that the rent-to-own is whether we like it or not, by far is the housing solution of the day. You know, and we're just in your lobby, and the reports I'm getting all the way from Kubas is incredible, you know. So we have the rent-to-own package where you have to pay in installments. If you pay your 20% by installments or outright, then you can move into your house and keep paying by any payment plan that you choose. Then also we have we have the lifeline, which we have modified. That is going to be announced at the main fair. So what I can say on that one is that we should be looking out for something very interesting. I mean, it's a cutting edge, you know, package that is coming, you know, and it's going to help even more people. Right now, the pressure from the regions are serious. We're hoping that.
But you're enjoying the pressure because it means more work to do, and of course more kwacha as well. So
it's good pressure. You see, the thing is that there is so much positive. We are realizing that there's so much positive energy,
right?
You know, in this around this whole thing, and which we believe that we can harness, you know, to make people's living conditions good, especially where they live. Or where they stay.
Especially considering that the theme for this year is, guess what? Yeah. Where you live matters. I've always said that. Where you live matters. But let's talk about, you just saw some of the visuals that we put on the screen. Ningo Pram Pram and other places where you are developing. Tell us a bit about those. What packages are available in terms of, you have, you know, the different suites, the different apartments that you have available.
Okay, so with the payment plan, we have quite a number of building property types. We have from 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, even 4 bedroom villas. We have the semi-detached and the detached. So we have
I know some of them are expandable as well.
Yes, all of them, apart from the villas, of course. We have made it in such a way that maybe somebody wants to have a 2 bedroom, but for now they can afford the 1 bedroom.
1 bedroom.
The 1 bedroom has been designed to have an expandable space. So when you finish paying for that 1 bedroom, you can go ahead and then do that expansion. Yeah.
Let's also talk about some of the feedback. He's already said that you've had a lot of feedback from the different regions. At the first clinic at the Achimota Retail Center, you had a lot of that. Share with us some of what people have been saying.
Okay, so with the Habitat Fair, we always look forward to it. And it's such, you know, a great environment to meet prospects and discuss the rent-to-own bit, because it's different. It's something we've not experienced
People are
yet.
still catching on, right?
Definitely. So we always have more people approaching us. We giving them more insight on the project. And Achimota was great. So we are looking forward to West Hills this weekend. It's going to be better. And
let's get into that. What can those who are going to be coming there expect? What are some of the things that they can expect from Cities and Habitats, the planned city extension project?
Okay, so as my boss said, we are introducing some new packages. That one is going to be introduced during the main fair. Okay. But for this one, we have some promotional packages, some discounts, some waivers. So we are just expecting more people to come there, and then we'll throw more light on that for them.
Okay, so Daniel, those watching us this morning, and maybe those listening without watching, because that's also possible, they can expect a whole lot as they come to the West Hills Mall. The main one will be at the conference center, but for this clinic, they're also going to get some juicy packages. Just how juicy will these packages be? I'm sure someone is watching and thinking, Charlie, so give us a little breakdown of that.
Yeah, you see, so every year we have these increments that comes, alongside, the inflationary trends and things like that. We try to up it a little bit. So for those, that is for the 20%. Those increments affect only the 20% of what you have to pay. So for those who sign up within this period, of the fair as it's going on, that increment doesn't affect you. That increment will be frozen. Are you getting?
Yes.
Yes. So that is one juicy package so if, for instance, you have paid 1 year, you have paid 2 years, and then there is an increment that would go up maybe by 5 or 10%, because you registered within this period, that increment doesn't affect you. And that's within the 20% that you have to pay. Apart from the 50% discount that you are getting on the registration, that 500 cedis registration, you are getting a 50% discount on that one as well.
Right, so some interesting packages there. But some people have been asking, when are you going to start giving out, the houses, those that are already ready? Are any of them ready yet?
Yeah, so from this August, we are handing over some.
You're handing over some? How many are we looking at?
We are handing over just 2. In September, we are handing over 4. Up to the end of the year, we are handing over about 42.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like a whole community there.
Yeah, it's about 50 homes, by the close of the year. But we are beginning in fact, those that we have to hand over August and September, is because they can't wait. They are too eager to
get in and occupy.
So we have decided to speed up for them. That was really based on their own specialty.
And I'm sure with those as well, people would be able to see pictorial evidence and say, wow, so this is what it looks like.
Sure.
But on the back of that, there are, site tours you also give. When is your next one? Because there are quite a number of people who have expressed interest in seeing for themselves. Feely, like we say.
Sure.
Feely Gadochi. When is the next one?
Yeah, so we are doing the next one tomorrow. Yes, 4th.
Oh, tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow. Wow. That's 4th of August, and it's a holiday because, most people don't, because of work schedules and other things, are unable to make it. So tomorrow, we're expecting quite a number. We're expecting, for those who have even registered to come for the site visits, it's big, it's huge. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting tomorrow.
So there's a whole lot to expect, Loretta, but let me ask specifically, for those who will have the guts and of course the money and put pen to paper at the next clinic, what special packages do you have for them, those who are going to sign there?
Yes, so as Mr. Edu said, we have that 50% discount on the registration.
The 500 cedis.
Yes,
right.
So instead of the 500 cedis, they'll be paying 250 Ghana cedis. And then, of course, we also have the special waivers, as he indicated. And then, of course, some nice souvenirs for those who will register at the fair.
Can anyone participate in the site viewing tomorrow?
Yes.
Anyone who is interested?
Sure.
Okay.
If you're interested, you can.
So how can they go about it?
So they have to call the office.
Okay.
So you'll contact the office. Our numbers 0577 911 101.
Okay, please repeat that.
Okay, 0577 911 101.
Okay.
And 055 55 30300. 055 55 30300. And then we give them the information.
All right. So I'll let both of you have some 30 seconds. Final words. Speak to our audience, your audience, and what we can look forward to, not just at the West Hills Mall, but at the Accra Conference Center as well.
Yeah, so as many who are watching, as many who have expressed interest, should make it a point to be at the West Hills Mall and also at the conference center. The rent to own has come to stay. It's one of the biggest housing solutions now for the country. The interesting thing is that even people outside the country are calling. What is it about? You know, can we, you know, there are those who are already doing studies.
Based on what you're doing.
Based on what we're doing, PhDs on what we are doing. It's an interesting phenomenon. It's an interesting project that reaches out to lots of people. So as many who are interested should come over to the fair. They should come over to the West Hills and then the Accra International Conference Center and experience things for themselves.
All right, come and see for yourself. So we had Loretta Barr, Client Service Executive, that is Cities and Habitats from the Planned City Extension Project, joining the conversation. We also had Daniel Adu, Project Manager with the Planned Cities Extension Project. Thank you so much, Daniel and Loretta, for joining the conversation. But let's get to the other end of the conversation. It's another interaction on the back of same Virtual Securities Africa joins us, and we're going to have our guests join us virtually from Virtual Security Africa. So they are showing us the virtual effect. Spendilove Isi Arthur is Sales and Marketing Executive, Virtual Security Africa. We also have Esther Abuajewa, Sales and Marketing Executive, Virtual Security Africa. Which one of you is Spendilove? I want to know whether we're going to spend quite a lot on this enterprise. Good, but that was just on the lighter side. So let me start with you, Spendilove. For you, how did the first clinic go at the Achimota Retail Center last weekend? I'm sure it was pretty exciting. What are some of the memories you can share with us, Spendilove?
Okay, the first clinic which happened at the Achimota Retail Center went very great. We had quite a number of clients visiting our stand, and we hope to generate those leads into great opportunity like businesses and other stuff.
Right. So let me find out from you, what are some of the offerings of Virtual Security Africa? I'm sure some people are seeing security in there and they're assuming you do a number of things, but you do much more. So tell us, what are some of the offerings of Virtual Security Africa?
Okay, so Virtual Security Africa offers complete security solutions to both SMEs and then individual clients. And we also offer CCTV cameras, we offer intrusion and perimeter detection systems, we offer access control systems, we offer fire alarm systems, any security solutions at all. That's what we do. We basically do as Virtual Security.
So you offer the whole gamut when it comes to security solutions for businesses and for homes. But let me come to you, Esther, on my next bit. What feedback have you got so far from the Achimota Retail Center? Those who have passed through, those who have interacted with you at your stand. What are some of the things they've been telling you? Okay, so it appears we've lost Spendilove and Esther. We'll try to reconnect with them, but Virtual Security Africa, of course, is one of those. In fact, one of our sponsors, and they're there at our clinics. In fact, they were there at the Achimota Retail Center, and they are going to be at the West Hills Mall as well. So do come by. You can see in your shot right now some of what their offerings are. Your safety is our priority, they say. So just speak to Virtual Security Africa for your CCTV cameras and more. So Esther, I was directing a question to you about what some of the feedback had been concerning the first clinic. What can you share with us? Well, we'll still try to get Esther and Spendelov back on this bit, but just before, we're having an interaction with the Planned Cities Extension Project. Daniel Edu and Loretta Ba giving us a good idea of what to expect coming in. So you can tell from the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, the 13th installment, basically, we have everything for you, from security solutions, like we're interacting with Virtual Security Africa, to building solutions. We've had here quite a number of these entities. So come, if it's building, whatever it is that you're looking at, whether it is the rent-to-own option, whether you want to build for yourself, just come through our next clinic and let us give you everything you need at heavily discounted prices, and you get quality guaranteed. We only deal with entities that have the highest pedigree in the building, the security, and other entities that have that pedigree. So just stay with us. We will get back to Virtual Security Africa, Spendelov and Esther. Let's try one more time. Esther, can you hear me? If you can, just say hello.
Hello.
Great. So I was asking, at your stand at the Achimota Retail Center, what is some of the feedback that you've got from the patrons?
Okay, so we had a lot of people walking in and they showed great interest in our products. And I can tell you, if you were there and you saw our screens and the cameras are displayed, they loved it. It was fantastic. And then we are looking forward to seeing a lot of them in this second clinic to come in, walk in, and then come do business with us.
The second clinic comes off this weekend at the West Hills Mall. What can people expect, Esther? And tell us again about some of the packages you have for those who will come to your stand.
Okay, so the second clinic, we have loads of discounts on our product, on our CCTV especially, and our new GSM alarm systems. We have packages for everybody. We have the basic, we have the standard, and we have the premium. So it's open. Anybody at all can get any package that they want. If you want the basic, you can, the standard and the premium. And then for the second clinic, we are treating everybody who wants to secure their homes. It's very crucial. We have to secure your home after you've gotten your property. So just walk in, and then with the flexibility of the packages, you can either go for the basic, go for the standard, or go for the premium, depending on your budget. So we are ready to serve everybody at the second clinic.
Virtual Security Africa ready for you. But let me come to Spendelov now. You've spoken about your CCTV cameras among the other offerings that you have. But what is unique about Virtual Security Africa and what you're offering the patrons who will be coming to the West Hills Mall?
Okay, so what is unique about Virtual Security Africa as the sales support that we render to our clients after installing any of our security solutions. And also we take pride in ourselves that we actually give return on investment to our clients, because we believe in our products and believe that whoever purchases or does business with us gets a return on investment. So, yeah.
So finally, maybe your concluding words and what the expectations can be. It's not just going to be at the West Hills Mall. You're also going to be at the Accra Conference Center for the big one. So just whet our appetite, and you can add your concluding words to that, both Spendelov and Esther.
Okay, so we entreat all and sundry to pass through our stands this weekend at the West Hills Mall, and the main event as well at the conference center. And then we have great deals, like I said. The packages are so mouth-watering. We have the basic, standard, premium. Anybody at all can come in and then get our services. And we entreat SMEs and then individual residences, businesses, financial organizations, and any other business at all to come through this weekend at West Hills Mall and the main event at the conference center. And then we have a showroom at opposite UBA, first floor, Nana Depa Plaza. They can pass through anytime weekdays and weekends, on Saturdays as well, to come and have a look at our products.
Okie doke, ladies, thank you so much for your time. And of course, if you're thinking security, think Virtual Security Africa. Spendalav Isiatha is a sales and marketing executive with Virtual Security Africa. We also had joining the conversation Esther Abwaju, sales and marketing executive as well with Virtual Security Africa. I'll see you come Sunday. Okay, doke.
Yes.
All right, so that's how we wrap the conversation on the back of our interactions with these two entities that will be bringing you their offerings at the West Hills Mall. But time now for you to share with us what your thoughts are on the matters we've been discussing this morning. We've been talking about the shortage of gas on the back of the industrial action by drivers, by operators in the LPG sector. We've also spoken about the Ameri situation, Miscellaneous SA, and these contractual terms that some call illegal. Earlier, we had an interaction with Ginnappo, former Deputy Energy Minister, Kojo Yauche of ASEP, and Kojo Poku, who is an energy analyst. We'll be bringing you or allowing you to share your thoughts on all of these after the break. But before we go, the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the Planned Cities Extension Project from Cities and Habitats Rent to Own. It's also sponsored by Elegant Homes and General Construction Limited, where quality meets value. Virtual Security Africa, Complete Security Solutions, Superlock Technologies Limited. You deserve the best. DBS Industries Limited. We truly are your roof experts. Duraplast Limited, where Duraplast goes, water flows. Gold Key Properties, building prestige since 1997. Don't you forget, where you live matters. We'll be right back. Righto, so here we are, and our offerings to you at this juncture where we just want to hear from you, basically, on the show. You can call that number rolling at the bottom of your screen, 0302-211-691 extension 2. Just call and let us know your thoughts on matters of national scope. Here are some of the matters we could contemplate on the show. Apart from the Ameri deal and Miscellaneous SA, and apart from the other matters we've been discussing on the show, how about we consider these as well? There is a situation to do in the Lower Manya Krobo area of some people on the back of the prepaid meters and all of that. Some of them are simply saying, we are not going to pay for electricity bills, and we had these arrangements all the way from the Nkrumah era and all of that. And so we are not going to pay. Some say that is sheer impunity. What do you make of it? A matter of interest for me as well is a situation to do with whether or not the Communications Ministry and the NIA are working hand in glove. Guess what? Recently, when Communications Minister Eslo Owusu-Ekufo said that she was very reluctantly, pushing the deadline forward to the end of September. Of course, at the end of August, some dynamics changing as well. She made that sound as though that would be the last time there would be a further delay. But guess what? Professor Kenatafua, who is CEO of the NIA, has also come out to say that they are basically not on a deadline. They don't have a deadline. It's a rolling matter, and that they don't operate with deadlines. What is your take on that? For me, it smacks of some disconnect, because now it creates a picture where likely in September there could be another extension. Apart from that, I'd also like us to contemplate the shortage, artificial or otherwise, of gas, and on the back of those industrial actions. What are your thoughts? Share with us. We have Michael connecting with us all the way from KJB in the OT region. Michael, good morning. What are your thoughts? Hello, Mike.
Technical school. Yes, it is something thing I consider that it is, even though the report is that it's based on because of examination-related issue.
Right.
But on a more serious note, I see that the examination-related issues are just a trigger. Because of the issues happening in our senior high schools right now, the students are becoming volatile. And any small thing that trigger their volatility will show up.
Right.
So if issues concerning their food and all that things are not quickly addressed by those in authority, we will see more serious issues than what is happening at Bolgatanga recently. And I will not be a prophet of doom. We may see very ugly issues happening. So we shouldn't take them that they're just children and they don't know anything and they can't do anything. Angry man is an angry man. If we don't see to their needs urgently, I'm assuring there will be issues at more than we are
simmering
seeing.
issues.
What he has
Right.
just begun, and more things are yet to happen.
All right. Thank you, Mike, for connecting on these issues. Owing to time, when you call, just go straight to the point. That was Michael in KJB. We also have Yaya in Wa. Yaya, good morning.
Good morning.
Please shoot. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Boss.
Go ahead, Yaya. I'm listening to you.
I'm sorry. I wanted to speak to one of your producers before. I wanted to speak on Anonymous, please.
Okay, so Yaya wants to be anonymous. So Yaya, just hold the line and interact with my producer, and then you can share your thoughts from there. Well, Yaya, not his real name, but calling from Wa. All right, so you can also call that number 0302-211-691 extension 2. What are your thoughts on this raft of matters? The first caller, Michael, just shared his thoughts on the Bolgatanga technical situation. And he says it's not just about examination malpractice or anything of the sort. There are simmering issues, bread and butter issues that students are facing in senior, high and technical institutions across the country. And that serves as a bedrock for some of these matters that ought to be tackled. What do you think? Just call that number, 0302-211-691 extension 2. You can also talk about the Ameri deal that some say is simply illegal and that it must come to Parliament. Some are calling for the EPC, like Gh Genoppo of the Energy and Mines Committee of Parliament. He is calling for further details on that. And if you use gas, I would like to hear from at least one person who uses gas on the back of the latest strike. Have prices escalated, changed in any way? And what is your reaction? You can call that number 0302-211-691 extension 2. We have George connecting with us from the Central Region, Cape Coast to be specific. George, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts is on the General Legal Council issue.
The General Legal Council, right.
The General Legal Council undertaking. My issue is, if you are going to write the exam and you don't know the pass mark, you don't know, you can't even go for remarking. You can then it's better we should allow them to handpick those who they need to become lawyers.
Right.
So that they should stop the exam. We should just allow them to handpick those people who want to become lawyers and not to perform any exam. Why is this thing? Have we been given an autocracy or what? You have paid to sit an exam. You can't go for remarking. You can't do anything. Everything lies in their bosom. Then what kind of democracy are we practicing?
Good question. Yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts. We'll pick Sule as our last caller if we still have Sule on the line. Hello, Sule.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Sule. You have some 30 seconds. Make your thoughts.
Okay, please. My English is not too good, so consider me.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Please, I want to say something about the communication minister.
Okay.
You should please give us a break because if she wants to give deadlines, then she must make sure that the NIA card goes to every Ghanaian's doorstep to to register everyone. If they follow everybody in their house to register everybody, then it will be simple for all of us. Like the way they just did coronavirus recently.
Right.
I was in the house, they came to us. I couldn't go to the center to take my injection, but they came to the house. I took it. So if she wants to give deadline, then she should also comment to do that so that we all will get our card and then we'll be free. Please.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. That is Sule, our last caller. But right before we go, we definitely have to celebrate our own. Isaac Amo is one of our own. He's a cameraman here at the Multimedia Group Limited. Today happens to be your birthday, Ike. A very happy birthday from the crew to you. We thank you for the good work you've been doing, and we celebrate you. Keep being the star, the fine person that you are. And on that note, we wrap the AM show for this morning with me, Benjamin Akakpo. You will see Bernice Abubedo Lanza very soon. But up next, Joy News at Desk. Do stay. We'll be back.